paper, your express ticket to the New Zealand House of Representatives. Every episode, we unravel the complex world of legislation, debate, and democracy. From bills to select committees, we've got it all covered. So fasten your seatbelts because you're about to dive deep into the heart of New Zealand's political landscape. Stay tuned, stay informed, and stay engaged with the Order Paper podcast.
And kia ora, good afternoon here from Poniki, Wellington, and we'll be bringing you the It's in the Ballot budget special, or the Order Paper budget special, kind of a bit of a combined show of what's happening today. Now, we're going to be having a bit of a flurry of panellists going through today. Now, because I made myself famous, thanks to One News, we're going to be equating Chubba Chup lollipops to deal with tax cuts. So, as they would retail at many different supermarkets, dairies, they're about 60 to 70 cents each. They might be a little bit more expensive if you're out in the middle of nowhere. They might be cheaper if you do buy them from a wholesaler, but effectively, I think you get the point there. So we're going to be measuring the tax cuts based on there. And also, we're going to be having from our panellists who be able to sit down there and give us some views on what they actually think is going to be happening in the budget. Little things that can be brought up, such as, what potential new hidden taxes that could be in there. What could also be happening with certain products on the market. You just don't know. I mean, and also, is it worth heading to the petrol station tonight to fill up with petrol because the excise tax is going to go on tomorrow? Considering old budget day sorts of things, you typically tend to have, after the budget was announced, up until about 6 p.m. at night, there used to be queues like crazy at the local petrol stations because everyone was trying to sit down there and get to fill up for their fuel and all that onto the, the old price. Now, since we haven't really got much about the budget yet, let's introduce two panellists who are going to be coming in. We've got Laura and Eric, who are coming to us from various different telephone calling areas of the country. I think that could be the best way to describe it. So how the start of our panel for today?
Well, I've got my popcorn and I got my drink ready.
You've got your chopper chops. So, Eric, you managed to bring your Chubba Chups?
Well, I've got my peanuts ready. Ding dong peanuts from the local dairy.
Does your peanuts worth? And we'll convert that into tax. How many kgs of peanuts per week your tax cut's going to be?
Maybe after the tax cuts, I can get two for the price of one.
Oh, so it sounds like you're getting tax cuts only worth, what do you call it? 3 of these. I've got to sit down there and actually, I might have to take them out of the packet there. So I'll put the packet on my desk there so we can hold out the number of Chubba Chups and all that sort of stuff going on there and sit there and work out what's happening. Just to also to those who are watching online, there will be many people have been given the link to come in, that they can come in when they need to with it. So we might have an MP that magically turns up. We may have many different of our friends of the show. Considering we're not in your traditional order paper or It's in the Ballot format, I mean, we haven't got any question boxes here, and we aren't reviewing bills. We're seeing what the budget comes in with. We're going to be having things in a little bit of a different way of doing things, so we have a bit more of a comedic time. I could probably say this is similar to an election night show.
As long as it doesn't turn into a horror movie, although I have come prepared for that too.
That's cool.
It's certainly going to be that. Now let's sit there and get on there. Predictions that could be in the budget. I have one. Do you think Simeon Brown is going to add road user charges to cyclists?
Anything's possible. That's all I got to say about that one.
Yeah. Will Casey Costello successfully get in the bill to allow for cigarettes to be sold in single units?
Is there a market demand for that?
Probably, especially at the price they're at. considering a packet now, you probably are nearly paying. Like the black market rate when I was at college was $1 a cigarette. The black market rate's now the legal retail market rate now.
Right. Okay.
Well, actually, probably more.
But we're not gonna get legalized weed with taxation. We can't. No, can't do that.
No. I doubt that. Yeah. Well, you never know. David Seymour may be able to push that across the line. Considering I do think ACT does support legalizing cannabis and taxation.
They do. That's actually what sets them apart from NZ First and National.
Yeah. So that they're saying it in there. So other things that could potentially be in the budget. What predictions can we be in there? Eric, what predictions do you have?
Sorry, what do you mean by that, bro?
So what things do you think could be in the budget that we might not be expecting?
Not expecting. That's a good question. Well, I think apparently what we hear yesterday's parliamentary discussion was tax cuts for the middle and for the lower income. So I assume that there could be some goodies there.
Do you believe there might be a tax-free threshold introduced, which we currently don't have in New Zealand?
There is a possibility following the Australian way, and I think Germany also has that. So perhaps we are leaning
so does the UK as well.
Yes. So it may be. I mean, we are all similar democratic country type, so perhaps, we share the same traditions. I don't know. I mean, but okay, let's juxtapose the scenario that they might give a tax-free, 10 grand. I think Germany was 10 grand or whatever. I can't remember.
Australia, I think it's close to 20.
20 grand, yeah. So what do you think would be the threshold, guys? I mean, if that they have such a policy, a surprise goodie, what do you think? 18,000 New Zealand?
I think it might be 12.5 grand, and that's because the first tax bracket, or actually just double check, was it? Because I think they would scrape the 10.5% on the lowest tax brackets.
Yeah.
So tax brackets in the So the lowest tax bracket kicks in at 14 grand. So at 14 grand, it's just from 10.5% to 17.5%. If they made the first 14 grand a year tax free, just find out of the calculator what that would be. Times 0.105. That's $1,470 divided by 52 because we're working weeks there. That will be $28.30 a week tax cuts if they decide to make that particular tax bracket tax free.
Well, I mean, that might work out well for your coffee cut, Sam.
Well, it could possibly help. I mean, put it this way. It probably would get you at my business if you're buying large coffees at Newtown Market. Yeah. It would be able to buy you 4.5 large flat whites per week.
Wow. I mean, you could use that money to fill up your car so you can go to work. Considering what they're proposing to do as far as petrol is concerned.
Well, yeah. I mean, considering they're looking at introducing road user charges to to petrol in place of petrol tax, which that's going to affect some people because I mean I quite like the fact that I pay my tax at the pump. Well, actually, it's paid before it gets to the pump, but yes, I think you know what I mean. The tax is paid at the pump. The tax is not paid. I'm not having to go to the post office and buying road usage stickers at $1,000, but not $1,000, 1,000 Ks at a time, like EV car users have just had to start doing.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to affect people living in rural areas, like myself. I have to travel to get from. It's going to screw me over.
Well, exactly. I mean, like how many Ks is it from your place to the general store, for example? Not the supermarket, the general store.
That's a question,
the general store. Well, thankfully, in Ikitahuna, We've got a 4 square, so it's like 5 minutes.
Oh,
5 minutes. Not a 5 minute drive, a 5 minute walk.
5 minute walk.
And that's if I'm walking very fast.
But basically, if you want to hit anything decent, you know, don't bother heading to Paitoa because they've got probably a rip-off New World. So you probably head south to Marston, which has what do you call it? At least one, if not 2 New Worlds. A pack and save in I think they now call it Woolworths.
Yeah, Paitoa. I like the new one, Paitoa. It's pretty good. But yeah, we predominantly do our shopping in Masterton, and they've got a reduced to clear, which is awesome.
When did they get a reduced to clear there?
Oh, they got a reduced to clear earlier. I think it was like last year. Yeah, last year they got a reduced to clear, and it's awesome. It's huge. It's where the old warehouse building used to be.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't even know where the old warehouse used to be. I know where the current warehouse is, though. So
yeah. No, it's not where the current warehouse is. It's where the it's next to Uncle Bill's, opposite Briscoe's.
You got Uncle Bill's as well.
Yeah.
He Marston has a lot.
It surprisingly does. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
that famous fish and chip shop or Fashion Chaps.
Oh, yep. Yeah.
Pretty good fish and chaps there, right?
Yeah, there's some good fish and chips down there.
All right, man.
yeah. Well, actually, how much is your what do you call it? You know, a fish, half a scoop of chips going to cost soon?
I personally wouldn't have a clue because I'm actually a vegan. I don't eat fish. But I'm sure it's something I could ask. I could look online.
Yeah, I'm just trying. I do remember there was. I think this is when we were in Tauranga for It's in the Ballot, and we bought a particular fish and chip pack. It was very good fish and chips. We found it online. We basically ordered online. Alex went out and drove and picked it up. But it was about $40-something, and I think it gave us something like 6 fish, hot dogs, crab sticks, quite good things. But the fish was brilliant. But effectively, that was it worked out to be about $10 per head per person.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was and that one we could have ordered. We were able to order online as well. Like we wouldn't have known where to go to get fish and chips in Tauranga. I mean, considering the only one I can think of would be the Welcome Bay Fish and Chip Shop, but that was from when I was a kid.
I remember there was this awesome fish and chip shop. I hope they're still going, but based up in Rotorua. It's run by this Chinese fellow. I forgot what the name of it is, but Uppies. Yeah, go to Uppies. Uppies is fantastic.
So yes, I wonder if I'll receive the Metapika tick of approval. So I wonder what else will be. Do you think the rate of GST might change?
No.
I don't think so too. No. I think no. Yeah.
No, I haven't seen any indication that they're going to go down that road.
No, and also, there are only 2 dates you can actually change GST in New Zealand, and that is 1st of October and 1st of April.
Yep.
Because that's the only 2. It's the only 2 dates in the GST return calendars where monthly, 6 monthly, and bi-monthly returns all line up at the same time.
Yep.
Every other month. Every other time of the year, like most businesses are bi-monthly. My business is a bi-monthly return. I know I could change it to monthly. I definitely don't want to be doing 6 months because oh god. And I mean, I've had some very I've had some very big bills recently, but I mean, I'll sit there and call that as Nicola Willis would say, a sugar high on sales. Yeah, and yes, I have to be honest, it has felt a bit like it's come crashing down in the last month. Yeah.
Yeah, inflation's going to be pretty rough, guys. Strap yourselves in.
Yes. So the next prediction, I'm just trying to think, what's one on there? How much will a bottle of spirits go up by?
Oh, God.
Is Dasha coming soon? I quite enjoyed his very kind of detailed analysis. Roberto Garcia. Is he?
Gabriel Garcia.
Yeah.
He's been sent the link. I'm not sure if he's going to be in it. Like his interest is housing.
Oh right.
Yeah, no, because also we've got in that same link we've also got Paul Barlow has been sent the link if he wants to join him. My friend Linda McGregor has been given the link to join, and she's a local small businesswoman.
Sorry, I thought you said. I thought you were going to say Conor McGregor, and I'm like, oh my god.
No, Linda McGregor. Linda McGregor, who had an article on RNZ put in. It was what was it called? It was around New Year's, and people tried to sit there and say, "Oh, the reason why she started her business is because she can become a Māori tax authority to get tax exemptions." And I'm thinking like, no, it's not. It's a limited liability company. You can't be a one-man band to do that. But the amount of conspiracy theories that floated around about her business, and I'm like trying to think like, I know the business, and put it this way, it ain't a Māori tax authority. It's a limited liability company. But the conspiracy, what some people would try to believe because she was Māori. And a McGregor, which is a very common. I think it's Scottish, but somehow intercepted into the Māori family last name.
Yeah, I mean, I've been subject to conspiracy as well. People look at the colour of my skin and they go, "You're not Māori, you're just lapping." And I'm like, "Bro, I'm actually quarter Māori. I am, for real. My mum is half Māori." It's like, I can't control the colour of my skin. I just came out this way.
You can't control the way how the genetics pulled out. I actually know this was a teacher at primary school. She had 3 kids. Her and her husband, Māori.
Yeah.
2 kids, brown eyes. 1 kid, blue eyes.
Yeah.
Just randomly in there. And it's just like, it does happen. And, here's the best one I love.
I got a brother with blue eyes and blonde hair.
Yeah. I got trans-shamed because someone mistaken me for being a woman instead of a man.
Yeah.
And so I put it there. My pronouns are he, him, because I'm a man. And it was something like, and it's my Facebook picture. And someone said, well, maybe you need to update your Facebook picture to better rectify who you are now, not who you were.
Don't worry. I've also been transvestigated. People think I'm a bloke. I've had that one before. It's like, why are you in the women's bathroom? I'm like, because I need to take a shit. Why else would I be here?
Yeah. I need to go to the But yes, so I had that. And I posted I posted on Facebook the picture that so-called made me look like a woman, which was the Port Waikato by-election show with me behind the host desk. And 2 of my trans friends, one of them commented and go, I think the person needs to go to Specsavers because they couldn't see your beard.
Yeah.
And another one said, "Oh, don't cut off your long curls." I like that. But the fact that 2 of my trans friends commented on that post and unless you knew who they were, you probably wouldn't have known that they were trans.
Yeah.
Right? Kel, you might have, but Joanne, you wouldn't have known that because you would just say Joanne Perkins. And that just that you see that name, that wouldn't necessarily make someone sit there and jump on it. But how quick someone was to try and trans shame while they were using the anonymous function on a group in a post. That was nothing to do about bathrooms. It was to do about EFOS machines.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I know. That's the part. It was about businesses not doing paywave and doing paywave surcharging and all that sort of stuff. And it's just I said, my business doesn't do. I purposely have my paywave turned off, but because I believe surcharging is an immoral practice of the business. If you want to sit there and take the cards, you should sit down there and accept the costs associated with it. We were able to do that for about 30 years. Why has it suddenly changed? And it's it's because people have just got it. It's become a popular trend to do surcharging.
Right. I'm a bit confused where people like conflating gender with EFOS.
Yeah, I know. And I think someone said it's because was it she doesn't want something in there, and I said actually just to let you know I'm a man.
Yeah,
and it was somebody on there, and that person quickly apologized, but the original poster decided to double down on it.
Okay.
Were they so desperate to show how much of a transphobe they were? They did it to someone who wasn't trans.
People
And
be
like-
weird.
Yes, yes. The community. It was on the Waikanae community page or something. It was on, that was the community page it was on, because I do remember it was on the Waikanae one, because it was just like, what the hell? Yeah, it was. But I mean, that's what happens. I mean, that could be happening soon with one of the bills in Parliament if it gets pulled out of the biscuit tin.
Oh, yeah, I can just imagine if Georgina Bayer was still alive today. Imagine finding her because she wanted to take a piss.
Oh,
Just like,
what some people used to go like, oh yeah, I proudly call Georgina George. I see it as a badge of honor to call her George. And it's just like, huh? Like the fact that there's a bit more of a reason. She didn't choose to go to Georgina from George because that was like a name choice. Like there's actually a reason behind it, and it's the fact that actually George was her grandfather's name, and that was the name she was given at birth. And she said, in order to honour that name, Georgina was the appropriate way to go down the path of being a female.
Uh-huh.
yeah,
So that was the reason why Georgina, went from George to Georgina, and that's the reason why she still kept her last name.
Hmm.
That's just, there were things there like, her last name and all that. Like there were certain things that were still there that still honoured that heritage. But yes, and also remember how there was a thing about the bronze statue that someone wants to, a third party, not public money, wants to fund it in the same way there's a statue of Dick Seddon outside Parliament, but it was to have them in Carterton, and people got all transphobic. People outside the area went in on the social medias to get all transphobic about her, not realising that she was the first, that was where she was the mayor.
Oh, for fuck's sake. That's all I have to say about that one.
Yeah, it's like, and they'll go what a waste of ratepayers' money, and you had to have both the mayor and the deputy mayor having to sit there and go in there and go we're not paying for this statue.
Yeah.
But someone else is. It's where do we put it in our community to represent our first Māori mayor, and that was something they which throws a lot of people off as well, because when she got elected to mayor, it wasn't just she wasn't just making international history, she made local history at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's it was quite an interesting, she said it was quite an interesting period because she wasn't expecting to win the mayoralty when she won it. And she only got shoulder tapped into it. If she wasn't able to stand for both councillor and mayor, she wouldn't have stood for mayor. She would have just stood for councillor. But because she could stand for both, she said, okay, yeah, I'll do it because I can stand for both positions. And she got the higher of the two, and because the law states if you win multiple positions, you have to take the higher of the positions you win. So that's what happened. Yeah. Now, I've just got the live stream up from Parliament TV, and Parliament TV still has not... what's it called? It's still doing that. Apparently, in order for the budget to happen, they have to sit under urgency.
Oh. Well, I think what they must say at Bellamy's.
okay.
Bellamy's is their favorite haunt. The one further down, heading up to Victoria Uni on the other side, the law school. So, they do enjoy a lot of yummies at the Bellamy's restaurant. So, maybe some of them haven't finished their meal yet. Well, look, right? But
no, I know it's something that I just saw on there was the fact that it's the house is sitting in urgency, which I didn't know that the house actually had to go technically into urgency in order, because the thing is
that right?
it's a weird way the process of the budget works, because they go it's first reading, then they do it, and then they go straight. But second reading is when all the speeches come out.
All right.
Yeah. So first reading is so effectively it starts with first reading, which is I move the motion, I move a second time, and then the second reading is when they read out all the speeches, and you find out all the little surprises that are on the cards and all that sort of thing there. And usually the first speech goes on for 40 minutes. Which is usually the Minister of Finances, and then it's the Leader of the Opposition followed by the Prime Minister, who have 20 minutes each, and then each leader gets 10 minutes following that.
Wow. It's good we stock up all our peanuts and chips and all that. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Coffees. So are you a vegan? So you probably have soya coffee?
Yeah,
right?
I just soy milk coffee. It's good for me.
All right, okay. And Sam, you'll be getting it from your coffee cart. I must visit his coffee cart. I'm kind of like, I can feel that it's pretty good coffee. So, yeah, I hope your business grows.
You can probably ask Jill that one. Jill has definitely had coffee from me. Stacey can probably sit there and say it.
Wow.
Trying to remember, there's a few people who've had coffees from me over the years. Julian Genter buys coffee from me some of the time when she's at the market.
Is that how she got all so hyped up that day? You over
Not from my coffee, she didn't.
I was a bit concerned when I saw that footage of Julian Genter. It's like, did someone give her some gluten that day or something?
Yeah.
It's like, is she all right?
Yeah, no, I don't know. Yeah, all that. So yes, this is what is showing up on Parliament on the on Parliament TV at the moment. So we will head back to the panel while we wait for things in there. I mean, we're still about 3 minutes away before we do it. I mean, this will be where people start piling into the gallery and start basically getting there. One thing I can sit there and also say was about today's in Wellington, we had no traffic woes at the time for the Te Pāti Māori's protest. But the one thing I found quite intriguing about the Palmerston North Hikoi was turn up at Waikanae, will park up at the train station and jump on the train to Wellington.
Oh.
I was not expecting that to actually be in there, but I think that might be a sign of saying the people who are there probably don't have money to spend $20-$30 at the parking building before they reach Parliament steps, so they pull off at Waikanae and catch the train. Because it's one of the few ones you could actually pull off and jump on a train. Like, I mean, I wouldn't bother doing it with Masterton, considering,
we'll be waiting all day. Yeah. Take forever to get to Wellington.
Apparently they can only do 60k an hour at the moment because when they reload the tracks, the gauge is a bit... the gauge was in the tolerance, but it was 4 millimeters narrower than the previous gauge.
Oh.
They might be having a hangi as they take the train down on the train and have a hangi there, and it's pretty good.
I'm not sure if Meatling would sit there and lay and have a hangi.
I'm not quite sure how you would dig a hangi pit on the train, but I'm open to ideas.
Pre-dig it, and then on the
I wonder if you can get an electric version of the I think it's there's some hangi cookers that can be powered by gas, but I was wondering if you get an electric version, plug it into the wall, and have it cook on the train on the way down to Wellington on the electric units.
Have you ever heard of it? Yeah. Have you ever heard of an oven hangi? That is an electric hangi.
Oh, it is.
You can actually make a hangi in an oven.
Oh.
Yeah, in your kitchen. Yes.
Well, on the train, how? I mean, battery operated?
No.
No, just in your standard kitchen oven.
Oh, yeah, okay.
We've had electric trains in Wellington since 1940. I mean, we still use the same system from 1940. Oh, we have some news.
Oh, got action.
Oh, there's the Dick Seddon statue we're talking about. No, talking away.
Problem is I'm going to get through all my popcorn before it even starts.
Gonna say you should have bought 2 bags.
Yeah, I should have used those tax cuts, the tax returns to grab another bag of popcorn.
I'm serving my peanuts.
There's Julianne.
Oh,
Sergeant of Arms.
Who's the guy standing behind him with the big club?
He's the Sergeant of Arms.
I was going to say, did she bring backup this time?
No, that's the speakers.
Almighty God, we give thanks for the blessings which have been bestowed on us. Laying aside all personal interests, we acknowledge the King and pray for guidance in our deliberations, that we may conduct the affairs of this House with wisdom, justice, mercy and humility for the welfare and peace of New Zealand. Amen. Members, on the 29th of May 2024, when the Committee of the Whole House was considering the sale and supply of alcohol winery cellar door tastings amendment bill, the result of the vote on the Honourable Dr Duncan Webb's amendment paper number 30 was incorrectly announced as ayes 28, noes 27. The correct result was ayes 38, noes 77. The record will be corrected accordingly. Our petition has been delivered to the clerk.
Petition of Entrust requesting that the House change the Income Tax Act to enable it to become a listed portfolio investment entity.
That petition stands referred to the Petitions Committee. Ministers have delivered papers.
Government responses to the petitions of Mohammed Soliman, Kate Stone and David Cooman.
Those papers are published under the authority of the House. Select Committee reports have been delivered for presentation.
Report of the Education and Workforce Committee on the review briefing on the 2022-23 annual review of the New Zealand Qualifications Authority. Reports of the Finance and Expenditure Committee on the Controller and Auditor General Draft Annual Plan 2024-25 and the Reserve Bank of New Zealand Financial Stability Report May 2024. Report of the Regulations Review Committee on the complaint about e-scooters, declaration not to be motor vehicles notice 2018.
The reports are set down for consideration. The clerk has been informed of the introduction of a bill.
Appropriation 2023-24 Supplementary Estimates Bill, introduction.
That bill has been set down for first reading.
Mr Speaker, I present the Supplementary Estimates of Appropriations for the Government of New Zealand for the year ending 30 June 2024.
That paper is published under the authority of the House. The House now comes to the delivery of the budget. The Honourable Nicola Willis.
Mr Speaker, I present the 2024 Budget Speech, the Budget at a Glance 2024, the Tax at a Glance 2024, the Fiscal Strategy Report 2024, the Child Poverty Report 2024, the Budget Economic and Fiscal Update 2024, the Summary of Initiatives 2024, and the Estimates of Appropriations for the Government of New Zealand for the year ending 30 June 2025.
Those papers are published under the authority of the House.
So here's the big part where the Minister gives the budget to their retrospective partners. It feels like it's looks like it's on a went to warehouse stationery being put through the hole punching machine.
And this is being held under urgency, isn't it?
I don't know.
Maybe they were in a rush.
Or it was a no-frills budget.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you know, warehouse stationery.
Well, there might be warehouse stationery.
But, you know, hey, there's nothing wrong with warehouse stationery.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Highly unlikely. I mean, but yeah. This will be in the parliamentary office, whatever. Heaps of staff. They probably helped out. So.
That's interesting how they only gave one budget to ACT, but they gave two budgets, and now they've just gone completely snubbed to Party Māori. I thought they would even have the decency to actually leave one on the desk for them. Actually, Te Party Māori aren't sitting in the House at the moment.
Oh, that's because they're outside protesting, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they said they weren't going to turn up for this event.
Should they not have someone? I mean, Mike, should they have someone there? I mean, to be
25 Estimates Bill, introduction.
The Appropriation 24-25 Estimates Bill is set down for first reading immediately.
Mr Speaker, I move that the Appropriation 2024-25 Estimates Bill be now read a first time.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. The contrary, no. Aye. The ayes have it.
Ayes have it.
Party vote is called for.
New Zealand National.
49 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
All votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa New Zealand.
15 votes opposed.
ACT New Zealand.
11 votes in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 votes in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
Look, they can't even have their vote.
I take it that's a no from Te Pāti Māori.
The ayes are 68, the noes are 49. The motion is agreed.
Appropriation 2024-25 Estimates Bill, first reading.
The Appropriation 24-25 Estimates Bill is set down for second reading immediately.
Mr Speaker, I move that the Appropriation 2024-25 Estimates Bill be now read a second time. Tēnā koutou katoa. E mihi ana kia ahumairangi, kia tangi te kio, ki te whanganui atara. Tānei whakapiripiri e tū nei. E nā tangata whenua o te rohi, e nā mema o te whare paramata, kia ora. Nōku te honorei, ki te whakarewa e te tāhua mō te tau nei, rāro mai. As I said in Te Reo Māori, it is an honour to announce this year's budget. The budget delivers on key commitments. For the first time in 14 years, hard-working New Zealanders will get to keep more of their own money through our government's tax relief.
How many chop-chops is that?
Chop-chop. How many chop-chops, Nicola? How many chop-chops?
We are shifting resources out of the back office of government and into the front line. We are investing in healthcare, in schools and police. We are putting New Zealanders' money where it can make the biggest difference. And what's more, our commitments are delivered within an operating allowance that is the lowest in real terms since Stephen Joyce's budget in 2017. In other words, this is a fiscally responsible budget, the most fiscally responsible in 7 years. Mr Speaker, on Budget Day, it's easy to get caught up in the analysis, the commentary, and the voices in the lobby. Actually, that is not what the budget is about. This budget is for everyday people getting on with their lives. The mums and dads rushing the kids to daycare or kohanga, working hard, waiting in traffic, and watching the petrol light flash again.
We're going to see a lot more petrol
is
flashing.
for the people whose doors I knocked on in the election campaign, who said $20 a week would be the difference between staying on top of the bills and being in overdraft. It's for the man who told me he picked up a second job driving an Uber to pay the rent. And it's for every New Zealander from every walk of life who gives their best and wants a fair deal in return. This is a budget for the squeezed middle of New Zealand, the shift workers, the people working 2 jobs, the families making sacrifices for their kids.
What about
Parliament's
the low-income
focus
people?
today and every day should be the results we deliver for people like them. Because the right measure of success is whether government is making a positive difference to the lives of New Zealanders and their families, not how many times it claims to care, and not how much money it spends. Mr Speaker, the creation and passage of a budget each year is at the heart of stable government, and this budget is a team effort. In particular, I want to acknowledge and thank the Associate Ministers of Finance, David Seymour, Shane Jones, and Chris Bishop, who were heavily involved in putting this budget together. It has benefited considerably from their ideas, advice, and input. The other budget minister in this process was the Prime Minister, and I am grateful for his leadership, support, and wise counsel as always. Mr Speaker, I want to acknowledge how challenging economic conditions are for many Kiwis right now. New Zealand is experiencing a very difficult downturn. It suffered an acute cost of living crisis in 2022 and 2023. The Reserve Bank responded by raising interest rates. The official cash rate went from 0.25% to 5.5% and has remained there for a year. That hurts. I get regular updates from the Treasury about the state of the economy. And what is apparent now, compared to 6 months ago, is that the current downturn started earlier, has been deeper, and is expected to last for longer than previously thought. In this environment, I feel for families and businesses across the country who are doing it tough. And what I can say to them is that better times lie ahead. The economy is robust and it will recover. Forecasts in the budget update indicate that current weakness in the economy will reduce inflation pressures and lead to a gradual easing of interest rates. The Treasury expects the unemployment rate to peak at the end of 2024 and start of 2025 before beginning to fall. And as interest rates ease, economic growth is forecast to pick up over the second half of this year and to continue into 2025. The government's job is to help that recovery, not hinder it. And in recent years, big government spending has fueled inflation. It has also caused a significant deterioration in New Zealand's fiscal position. The Obergall operating balance, the difference between government revenue and spending before gains and losses, has been in deficit since 2019-2020. And for the most part, this is a result of continued spending increases. Some of these increases were temporary in response to COVID-19, for example, but others were not. And after stripping out large one-off expenses and adjusting for the economic cycle, the Treasury estimates a structural operating deficit of around 1.5% of GDP this financial year.
Dollar terms?
Structural
privatize
deficit
everything.
is a technical term. To put it less formally, New Zealand has been borrowing to pay for the groceries.
10 billion
And this borrowing has contributed to rapidly rising debt. In 2017-18, net core crown debt was under 20% of GDP. It is now over 43% of GDP. And the solution is clear. Revenue and expenses must be brought back into balance. Debt must come down. This task is challenging. It has become even more challenging as the economic forecasts have deteriorated.
I'm pretty sure the
Compared to the
GDP debt has
half-year
increased
update,
all over the world.
the
I think
budget
Australia's is higher than
update
ours.
expects core crown tax
United
revenue to be
States
lower
is
by around 18.5 billion
GDP.
across the forecast
The
period,
government
as a result
Japan
of lower
is
GDP and lower
140
business
to
income
150%.
tax.
Oh yeah,
That is a
Japan
significant revenue
Whoa.
downgrade, leading to a lower operating balance and higher debt. To bring revenue and expenses back into balance, the government has a choice. It can manage its spending or it can raise additional revenue. Given that choice, this government's focus is squarely on managing spending. And the key top-down tool for this is operating allowances.
Yeah,
That
our
is the
debt
amount
is
set
comparable
aside
to
for discretionary
Australia's.
new spending in
Our
each
ratio.
budget. We are setting tight but realistic operating allowances in this budget and in future budgets. And we intend to stick to them. And I said in the budget policy statement that the final operating allowance for budget 2024 would be less than 3.5 billion, which was the allowance set by the previous government. The final allowance in this year's budget is in fact $3.2 billion. This is the lowest allowance in nominal terms since budget 2018 and the lowest in real terms, that is adjusting for inflation, since budget 2017. Operating allowances for budgets 2025 to 2027 will be even lower, at $2.4 billion per budget. These are considerably lower than the allowances presented in the half-year update, which was set by the previous government, and they are lower than those set out in National's fiscal plan. By comparison, the final operating allowances for the last two Labor budgets were $5.9 billion in 2022 and $4.8 billion in 2023. Now, Mr. Speaker, managing within future allowances of $2.4 billion will be challenging. Savings and reprioritisation will be a feature of future budgets, just as they are in Budget 2024. They will be a business as usual activity. Mr. Speaker, the Fiscal Strategy Report sets out the government's fiscal intentions and objectives. These remain as they were in the Budget Policy Statement, with one addition. The government intends to get back to surplus in 2027-2028.
That means cutting a lot of jobs, by the way.
Yeah.
And this is 1 year
And
later
cutting a
than
lot of public
forecast in the
services
half-year update, which showed a microscopic surplus of $140
maybe
million
not fixing
in
those potholes.
26-27. As I've mentioned, a weaker outlook for tax revenue has flowed through into lower Obergall balances and a higher debt track. The budget update now shows a $3.1 billion deficit in 26-27 and a $1.5 billion surplus in 27-28. Projections in the Fiscal Strategy Report show the government is also on track to meet its other key objectives: to reduce net core Crown debt to between 20% and 40% of GDP, and to reduce core Crown expenses towards 30% of GDP. I would like to achieve these goals faster than the current projections show. But the government is not planning an aggressive fiscal consolidation. We are taking a deliberate, medium-term approach, and we will not overreact to movements up or down in the forecasts. We will be making difficult decisions and trade-offs to turn the fiscal situation around, get back to
Trade-offs that won't
surplus and
benefit
reduce
low-income
debt,
people, but will
because
benefit
that is what
high-income
is
people.
required.
Well,
But New
tell me,
Zealanders should know this. We will look after them
between
along the
$24,000
way.
and $48,000.
Mr. Speaker, when analysing changes in the fiscal forecasts, it's important to distinguish between economic forces beyond the government's immediate control and budget decisions that clearly are in our control. Downgrades to the GDP and revenue forecasts fall into the first
It's up to
group.
$20
As I
a
said,
fortnight.
the weaker
It's
outlook
currently
for revenue,
available
all
for
else
those-
being equal, reduces the operating balance and increases
Do you
debt
want
across the
to
forecast
down
period.
Nicola Willis a bit?
Also, because the economy is smaller,
Yeah, this is
government
on
spending
stuff.
makes up a larger proportion of the economy.
But
Consequently,
14
the
chop
fiscal
chops.
stance has been making and will continue to make a
Yeah, it
greater
sounded pretty
contribution to inflationary pressures than previously assessed.
Yeah, I think Nicola Willis is
Those
talking over you
effects,
quite a bit.
they would apply
Well.
no matter which parties made up the government. Then there
we can always do that to her.
are policy decisions.
Oh, okay, right. Audio
This
set.
government has reduced the
Yeah.
operating allowance in budget 2024 and significantly lowered it for the next three budgets. Overall, these lower allowances result in a cumulative total improvement in Obergall of approximately $5.5 billion across the forecast period, compared to the allowances in the half-year update. That lower spending will improve the debt track and reduce inflationary pressure over the forecast period compared to what would otherwise be the case. In addition, modelling from the Treasury suggests that the impact of tax reductions offset by spending is also likely to modestly reduce pressure on interest rates. So yes, the fiscal forecasts have deteriorated since the half-year update, but not as much as they otherwise would have in the absence of the government's budget decisions. The best illustration is this. If the government had retained the operating allowances from the half-year update, those that were set by the previous government, the operating balance would not return to surplus until at least 2031. Mr. Speaker, the budget allowances I talked about are a net concept. They encompass spending, saving and revenue measures. The $3.2 billion allowance in this year's budget, as I said, the lowest allowance in real terms since budget 2017, includes the cost of tax relief. And this tax relief is long overdue.
Especially,
a visitor
especially
from the
for
year
landlords.
2010 would recognise the current personal income tax rates and thresholds, because apart from a new top rate, they are exactly the same. And yet, since 2010, inflation has pushed up wages in nominal terms. And as a result, people pay more of their income in tax. The median full-time wage and salary earner now earns $73,000 a year and is in one of the highest tax brackets. A minimum wage worker can face a marginal tax rate of 30%. Fortunately, the parties in this coalition government are the parties of the worker.
No, they are not. They are not.
We want working people to keep more of what they earn.
Well, thanks.
We
Let's
want
go
to
to
ease
the,
the cost of living pressures
low-income and
people have been
middle-income
under
people.
for so long. From 31 July, personal
Yeah.
income tax
Oh, no.
thresholds will rise. They will rise from 14,000 to 15,600, from 48,000 to 53,500, and from 70,000 to 78,100.
Funny how the party that's burnt and busting is calling themselves the pro-worker party.
This reduces income tax for anyone earning more than $14,000. And from 31 July, the eligibility for the independent earner tax credit will be extended from $48,000 a year to $70,000 a year of income. This will help an estimated 420,000 additional people, most of whom will get a full $20 boost a fortnight. And from 31 July, the in-work tax credit, which helps support low to middle income working families with children, will be increased by $50 a fortnight.
Most people get paid their week, please, Nicola.
Families with young
$25 extra
children
a
will
week.
also
Wow.
benefit from the new family boost childcare payment I announced in March. From 1 July 2024, parents and caregivers can get back up to 25% of their early childhood education fees to a maximum fortnightly amount of $150. This maximum amount reduces for family incomes over $140,000 a year,
So what
and
do you think
families
Tom
with an
was saying
income of
about what we're talking about?
$180,000 or more aren't yet eligible. This package of tax relief is identical in most respects to that set out in National's election tax plan. And the implementation date for the changes, other than for Family Boost, has been pushed out by around 4 weeks after advice from Inland Revenue that payroll providers required more time to make the necessary changes. We did test this package. In particular, I engaged closely and constructively with my colleague David Seymour on the ACT Party's idea of flattening the tax scale. This has a lot of merit, but it was not possible to achieve in a way that benefited people as the National Plan did. It remains, however, an idea for the future.
Because the flat tax
In total, what will
disproportionately
people
targets
get
low-income
from
people.
tax relief?
Progressive tax is a lot
The
more
budget
ethical.
material contains various scenarios. For example, a couple earning an average household income of $125,000 a year will benefit by up to $102 a fortnight.
Why don't you keep doing everything a fortnight?
Mr. Speaker, if they have 4 or more children, 4 is a good number of children to have,
Stop bragging.
they could actually get slightly
My
more
mum
than
did better.
that, as they would
She's got
still be
11, including
eligible
me.
for working for families.
Oh, God.
And if they have
What does she
children
get back
in
in
early
terms of
childhood
money?
education, they could get up to $150 a fortnight from Family Boost.
Oh, that's good.
Well, you can't it's something that works
Mr.
out.
Speaker, these have always been up
You've got to
to
spend something like
examples.
$600 a
People's
fortnight to get
individual
it
and family
on
circumstances
childcare.
differ widely. So
That's
I
a
encourage
lot
people
of
to look
money.
at the tax calculator on the budget website
Or
and enter their
$300 a week of
details.
childcare.
Analysis from the Treasury shows that an estimated 727,000 households will benefit by at least $75 a fortnight. And 187,000 will benefit by at least $100 a fortnight. On average, households will benefit by $60 a fortnight, and households with children
these
by
returns are not even going to cover the
$78
cost
a
of
fortnight.
childcare. I don't know why they're clapping. This is not a
I've
lot of money.
occasionally heard people say in this House that tax relief only benefits the well-off. Well,
Yeah,
that
it
is
does.
not true of this tax package.
All right.
Our changes to the inland
Right.
tax credit and introduction of Family Boost tilt
Although,
the
okay,
benefits of the
discussion
tax
is that
package to
those who
low
have-
to middle income working families with children.
Giving the lower incomes, probably get $130.
Mr. Speaker, tax relief in this budget
Yeah.
puts $3.7 billion a year back into the pockets of New Zealanders. This tax relief is fully funded. Some of the funding is from revenue measures, but mostly it comes from savings. The funding is broadly as set out in the National Party fiscal plan, with a handful of changes to reflect coalition commitments. These include, for example, a greater investment in tax compliance, an initiative proposed by New Zealand First. There are other savings in the budget. They go well beyond the funding of tax relief. The government has chosen to stop some areas of spending and redeploy resources to public
Such as
services
the funding
where they
from
will
the
have a bigger
investigation budget
impact.
into the Serious Fraud Office
Ministers
budget.
and their departments have gone line by line through the spending areas they are responsible for. And this scrutiny has resulted in more than 240 savings initiatives. Some amount to a few $100,000 a year, while others save tens of millions. Some reduce the amount of funding available for a particular activity, while others stop things completely. Mr. Speaker, the biggest part of this budget in dollar terms
Is she not
is
gonna go
not,
into
in
detail
fact,
what-
tax
what
relief.
they're stopping
It is
funding on?
actually investment in public services.
Who knows?
And I am proud to tell the House that this budget increases funding for hospitals and it increases funding for primary care. This budget increases funding for schools. And this budget increases funding for law and order to keep our communities safe.
There's a lot more I can say.
2/3 of the new spending in Budget 2024 goes to these three areas: health, education and law and order. Because this is a very targeted budget. There is no money hose spraying cash around.
I can picture one spin that $20
Other
note.
targeted areas of investment include transport, defence and disability services. But across the
Oh,
board,
there's a change.
whether they have received additional investment or not, the government has a clear expectation that public agencies must strengthen their focus on delivering results. We have set clear targets to
gonna take a
improve
few of
results in
these.
health, education, law and order, employment, housing and the environment, and we are focused on delivering them.
I gotta dose myself
Mr.
up on
Speaker,
ibuprofen.
I want to take members through some of these areas of new investment. First, let me clarify that when I talk about additional funding, I'm referring to operating funding over the next 4 years, plus capital funding. I will start with healthcare. In Budget 2024, the government is investing an additional $8.2 billion in the health system.
What's it going to deliver?
This includes $665 million worth of reprioritisation. And the single biggest portion of this is for Health New Zealand, with $3.4 billion earmarked for hospital and specialist services and $2.1 billion for primary care, community and public health. Budget 2024 also provides $1.77 billion to Pharmac, as my colleague David Seymour has previously announced, to ensure New Zealanders can access the medicines they rely on. It still staggers me, Mr. Speaker, that the previous government funded a bunch of medicines until 30 July this year only.
Speaking of medicines, I got ibuprofen for the
It
stream.
staggers me more that filling this fiscal hole does not cost $700 million as signalled in publicly available documents last year, but in fact costs $1 billion more than that. Well, thankfully, this government has fixed that appalling problem. The budget provides $31 million to gradually extend free breast screening to 60,000 women aged 70 to 74. And as the Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister for Mental Health announced last week, it provides $24 million to provide young people with free mental health counselling through the Gumboot Friday initiative.
That goes for a proper procurement process.
And for those who seek to oppose that initiative, it is my view and the view of our government that counselling will change many lives for the better.
No one is arguing against that, Nicola.
Funding in Budget 2024 will support hospitals and specialist
We know counselling
services.
works.
It will also
That's why we
support
want more
community
of it.
health providers, GPs, Māori health services, mental health services and aged care services. It will ensure our health system continues to be there for New Zealanders of all stages and walks of life. In addition to funding in Budget 2024, the government has chosen to pre-commit a total of $5.5 billion worth of new health funding against the Budget 2025 operating allowance and another $5.5 billion against the Budget 2026 allowance. And we've done this to give the health sector confidence to plan for the future, to ensure New Zealanders can get the health care they need. Mr. Speaker, education is the great liberator. It is the great equaliser. It is the most enduring gift we can bestow upon our children.
So far.
And to my mind, improving the results we get from our education system is the single most important thing we can do to improve the future productivity of New Zealand.
Cool, then increase funding to
Our
public
government
schools.
will improve educational achievement, not through growing the Ministry of Education, but by focusing our efforts on the classroom.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
And in Budget 2024, the government is investing $2.9 billion in schools and early childhood education.
The ban on the mobile phones are good, bro.
And Mr. Speaker, that includes $441 million of carefully sought out reprioritisation.
From all kinds of
This
people.
includes funding
You
for
can focus on maths
kohanga
and English
play
and
centres, kindergartens,
things that we use to do.
Kurakaupapa Māori, special schools, intermediate schools, secondary schools,
I think it's helpful for
charter
kids to
schools,
what equal.
and the work that goes on in classrooms across the country.
Yeah.
This investment includes $1.5
I mean, yeah,
billion
some
to
some
build
charter
new
schools are really
schools
good,
and classrooms
but
to
they're not
maintain
they're
and
not a
upgrade
replacement for
existing
public
ones.
schools.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, the charter schools
putting the
we
funding
effectively
in
looked
to
at,
fix the
they would only
multiple
be in big
classrooms.
centres. They would not potentially become the
And as
Enter
announced
Tahuna Primary
previously by
School, for
David Seymour, the
example.
Associate Minister of
Yeah.
Education, the budget provides
Plenty of public schools do right
$178
by their
million
students,
to
and
continue
they
the
just
Healthy
need
School
extra
Lunches
funding
program for 2 more
to improve
years,
their services.
including $8 million
There's a lot
to
we can
introduce
learn
a
from charter
targeted
schools.
program for 2 to 5-year-olds.
Yeah.
There is $516 million in the budget to support schools and early childhood education providers, $153 million to establish charter schools as championed
there we
by
go.
ACT,
Yep.
and $67 million to implement structured literacy in all state primary schools. In tertiary education, we are ending the failed policy that was first-year fees free. That policy failed its goal of lifting participation, and it failed to support students to complete their studies. In line with the National New Zealand First Coalition Agreement, our budget sets out a new approach of funding final year fees free to encourage the successful completion of qualifications.
Okay, that's an interesting flip.
We have also recognised the vital role of on-the-job training by ensuring there is funding in place to keep key elements of the Apprenticeship Boost scheme going, supporting a range of employers to take on new apprentices. Mr. Speaker, that initiative was left unfunded by the outgoing government, and we are rescuing it. Mr. Speaker, this government is committed to cracking down on crime and keeping communities safe so people can go about their lives in peace. And in Budget 2024, we are investing $2.9 billion in restoring law and order, including $497 million of reprioritisation, other savings and revenue. This budget delivers on the commitment made in the National New Zealand First Coalition Agreement to add 500 additional frontline police officers. Investment of $226 million will fund their recruitment and retention and ensure they are properly equipped to do their jobs. A further $425 million will support frontline policing, including boosting police pay and purchasing vehicles. Our government will always back the police.
Well, I thought Christopher Luxon said they couldn't match Australia's pay rates for police.
And the government's commitment to restoring law and
Maybe
order
they found money
means
under a
ensuring there are
money tree.
serious consequences for serious offenders.
Well, they've looked what free
As
market
previously announced,
competition means.
Budget 2024 will invest $1.9 billion more in frontline corrections officers, more support for offenders to turn away from crime, and more prison capacity, including an expansion of Waikeria Prison. The budget also invests $69 million to address serious youth offending, including a military-style academy pilot and continuing the fast-track youth offending program run by Oranga Tamariki and police. Mr. Speaker, Budget 2024 provides $1.1 billion to address demand and cost pressures on the services funded by the Ministry of Disabled People, Whaikaha. This investment will ensure that disabled people can access the services, equipment and support they need. An independent review already underway into the disability support system will help improve its long-term financial sustainability. The budget also provides $140 million to fund 1,500 new social housing places delivered by community housing providers. We do not subscribe to the one-size-fits-all approach, and we want to see a range of different providers delivering housing for those in need. Mr. Speaker, on coming into office, our government was faced with a number of fiscal holes, with only short-term funding in place for what were valuable programs. One of those was the Te Matatini regional model. our government is proud to have found funding of $49 million to support Te Matatini and bring kapa haka to life in the regions. This will help all New Zealanders join in the ongoing revitalisation of te reo Māori and Māori culture. Tihei Māori ora. And as previously announced, the budget also provides $571 million for Defence Force pay and projects, including $99 million of reprioritisation. A portion of this additional funding will increase remuneration for New Zealand Defence Force personnel, and the rest will go towards upgrading equipment and infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, I am determined to push forward with the social investment approach.
Oh, really? That's new?
Using hard evidence to invest in what works to improve outcomes for vulnerable New Zealanders. Budget 2024 creates a TAG contingency of $51 million to accelerate social investment. Part of this is to establish a social investment fund to directly commission outcomes for vulnerable New Zealanders and work with communities, non-government organisations and iwi providers. Another portion will be used to support the standalone social investment agency, which will be in place from 1 July this year. It is part of the Kiwi character to want more for those whose lives are most difficult. And our government understands that it is not enough to simply open our hearts to those in need. Truly solving the complex challenges of our most vulnerable requires that we apply our heads as well. And the social investment approach will allow the government to match good intentions with effective results. And it will shift resources to the grassroots and drive innovation to more effectively help those in need. Mr. Speaker, Budget 2024 lays the foundations for a better performing infrastructure system.
And don't provide any
The government is
additional
determined to
assistance.
address New Zealand's infrastructure deficit while also being a careful manager of public finances. In 2024, the government is overseeing a record level of capital investment to deliver the infrastructure on which New Zealand's growth depends. More than $68 billion is forecast to be spent on infrastructure by the Crown entities and Kiwi Rail
What if I
over
don't
the
want
next
to chop
5
chop?
years.
What if I want mental health services? I don't want to chop chop. You can keep those, man.
I've already mentioned some of the infrastructure investment in this budget: school property, Waikiria prison and defence equipment and infrastructure. In addition, Budget 2024 invests $1 billion more to accelerate land transport projects, including roads of national significance. This is on top of the $3.1 billion Budget 2024 commitment already signalled in the government policy statement.
Highway 19.
Other transport investments include $939 million to repair roads damaged by last year's severe weather events in the North Island, and $200 million for maintenance and renewals on the national rail network. Budget 2024 also invests $1.2 billion over 3 years in the new Regional Infrastructure Fund, as championed by New Zealand First. The fund will invest in resilience infrastructure and regional projects that support economic growth. Among the first projects to be funded and announced today and to get underway will be flood protection and resilience projects across the country.
Let them help provide regional councils with more money.
We are also providing funding to establish a national infrastructure agency to act as New Zealand's front door to connect domestic and offshore capital to New Zealand's infrastructure opportunities. And what's more, we're fixing the Resource Management Act so that instead of spending months and millions in court, those who want to build nation-changing projects can get on and build them. The government has ensured it has fiscal headroom to fund infrastructure needs. In Budget 2024, it has topped up the multi-year capital allowance by $7 billion. And as a result, $7.5 billion remains in the allowance to be allocated to future projects, so New Zealanders can have confidence that where capital investment is needed from the government, we can fund it. Mr. Speaker, the government will invest responsibly to support New Zealand's transition to a low-emissions economy and climate-resilient future. I have mentioned, for example, climate resilience projects funded from the Regional Infrastructure Fund. Around $2.6 billion of climate initiatives funded from the previous government's Climate Emergency Response Fund will also continue because we've judged that those projects represent good value for money. New Zealand remains on track to reach the emission reduction goals of our first emission reduction period. Later this year, the government will consult on plans to deliver emissions reductions over the second emissions budget period. Looking ahead, we expect the emissions trading scheme to play a vital role in reducing emissions. And we will also consider future climate and resilience investment proposals through the normal budget process and manage them against budget operating and capital allowances. Mr. Speaker, this year's budget is the clean-up job New Zealand needs.
You mean what? The clean-up budget?
After 6 years of economic mismanagement, we are welcoming in a new era of careful government spending, lower taxes for hard-working New Zealanders, and a strong focus on rebuilding the economy. Almost all the challenges New Zealand faces will be made easier if the economy grows faster. It's how we give New Zealanders the improved choices, the better public services, and the higher incomes they deserve. Economic growth is what will give all our children a reason to stay here in New Zealand. And in this budget, we are getting the country's finances under control and establishing foundations for growth.
Yeah.
There is much work ahead.
I don't understand how we're going to grow
Lifting
economically
productivity will be
with a
our
higher
government's
OCR
focus, whether
and
that be
increased
through
prices
raising
on our
educational
exports.
achievement, delivering better
That's
infrastructure,
not conducive
enabling
to
investment,
economic
or
growth,
any
is
of the
it?
multitude of areas that need addressing.
Increased prices of
This
exports,
budget
yes,
shows
but
what is possible with
you've actually
care
got to be in the
and
competitive
with
market for
discipline.
that and actually make it
Our
people want
approach
to pay for
means
that
New
increase
Zealanders
in
can look
exports.
forward with confidence, knowing the government
So
backs
that
them.
aspect is a positive
Mr.
thing,
Speaker,
is increased
I commend this
value
budget
on
to the House.
I mean, like, if you get more EKs coming in, right? Like, EK is going to open a main shop soon, like in Auckland, I think. I'm not sure where, but yeah, if you have a few EKs everywhere, there'll be like a few thousand jobs.
Well, can they sit there and consider putting one in Wellington? Because I can tell you right now, I'm preparing for a very rough 6 months of my business because the job losses were out of whack with the rest of the country.
Right.
So where average areas would sit there and possibly do it, Wellington has had a way out of proportion job losses than anywhere else in the country. And it's very concerning.
Right.
Well, there's the
Motion be agreed to.
Mr. Speaker.
the leader of the opposition.
Mr. Speaker,
replied.
I move that
All right,
all of
please,
the words
cure my
after
headache.
that be deleted and replaced with that this House has no confidence in the government because it is taking New Zealand backwards. It has no plan to tackle the cost of living crisis. It has failed to deliver on the promises it is New Zealanders, and it is prioritising the interests of landlord and property owners over hard-working Kiwis. Mr. Speaker, there was one major test that Nicola Willis had to pass in today's budget, to demonstrate clearly that she was not borrowing to pay for tax cuts. And this budget fails
I don't think she
at
quite
the
addressed that, did
first
she?
hurdle. $10 billion worth
No,
of tax
she
cuts,
actually hasn't.
$12 billion worth of borrowing. You don't need an abacus to figure out that this is a government borrowing to pay for tax cuts.
Sorry, did he just say
At a
abacus?
time when the Reserve
Oh,
Bank
abacus.
are
Oh, okay,
trying
right.
hard
As
to
in
bring
they-
inflation
Yeah,
down.
Sorry, I thought he
The
said
fiscal
anarchist, and I'm
impulse
like,
in this
oh,
year's
I'm
budget
here.
is positive. The fiscal impulse next year as a result of this budget is positive. In other words, at a time when the government says it's trying to help the Reserve Bank bring inflation down, it is doing the opposite. The fiscal impulse this year and next year as a result of this budget is positive. This is a government that is fueling inflation through tax cuts rather than helping to get inflation back down and interest rates back down again. And Mr. Speaker, are New Zealanders getting the tax cuts they were promised? No,
I don't think
they
inflation for housing is going to go down, unfortunately.
$250 per fortnight, the average family with children was promised by this government. And what are they getting? $60 per fortnight under the tax cuts that the government have delivered. But let's look at some of the other people who are missing out the most. And I was quite somewhat surprised by this one. Superannuitants, a couple on superannuation, promised $13 a week before the election by National, gets $4.30. That's $2.15 per person. That's less than a packet of chewing gum. I disagree to that. Perhaps he wasn't paying attention when he realised that superannuitants were going to get a third of what they had been promised, Mr. Speaker. But the $250 a fortnight promised by National during the election campaign undoubtedly has not been delivered. The tax cuts that have been delivered won't keep up with the increase in cost of living, and the changes made in this budget will see Kiwis paying more. New Zealanders will be worse off. Let's go back to the Reserve Bank and what they said just in the last week about what's keeping inflation higher for longer and run this budget up against those tests. Rates are going up at astronomical levels. Nothing in this budget will tackle that. Rents are going up at high levels. Nothing in this budget is going to tackle that. The $2.9 billion in tax breaks for landlords has so far resulted in rents going up more. Insurance is going up
to be fair,
of
the
the
tax
increase
cuts
in
haven't come
natural
into effect
disasters,
yet,
among
I
other
don't
things
think.
we're seeing
No,
in New Zealand,
apparently
and nothing in this budget is
yeah.
going to address that. This is a budget
not
that is
exactly
going to leave
good.
New Zealanders worse off. But
It's
let's
not
look at
exactly
it against
good
some of the
for,
other commitments that the National
the
Party
way
have
the
made.
tax
They
cuts
made
should
much
go.
of this notion of fiscal cliffs, that time-limited funding was such a terrible
So,
thing.
based on the budget, we can see there, and for those who are wanting to hear Chris Hipkins' speech, read the subtitles. I read the subtitles on purposely. One of the things that has confused the living shit out of me in this one is the increased funding for disabilities for $150 million to place 1,500 social housing placements by community providers.
There were. I couldn't help but notice the amount of, contradictions in Nicola's speech. Like I felt like I was getting whiplash listening to it. So are we doing this? Are we doing this?
To Nicola in general.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that I've come as a bit of a concern there is how much is actually being delivered by the results there. I mean, Blake, you've been listening to the budget.
Yeah.
Is your support going to be better or worse from what you've gathered?
Well, from what I've gathered, most of it's just going to building. And I've just
health and
broken
education
to
are going backwards. The increases in this year's funding are less than those required.
Yeah, but the 1,500 houses, right, that they're going to give, these from the stock, they're saying already existing. Apparently, there were like 4,000, according to what Chris Bishop was saying, but 4,000 that, for whatever reasons, Labour was not renting it out. About 20,000 people were waiting for homes, which I also don't know why. I mean, wouldn't that be in their interest to, rent it all out? So even for politics.
I mean, it's like saying a hotel. I mean, you put in the analogy. It's like a hotel that's purposely decided not to operate at 100% capacity while having people slam at the door. I want a room, but I'm sorry, we've got no rooms. But there's 5 empty rooms that aren't booked. Is that the best way to describe what you've just said?
Other frontline health services
Hmm.
suffered as a result of that. Mr. Speaker, no responsible modern...
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see, what happens in there. How much will wages go up? Will working conditions improve for doctors? Because during the doctor shifts, every time they keep talking about these chaotic shifts. Like, when it comes to, if I'm driving trucks, I can't do more than 14 hours a day. But junior doctors can operate on the 20th hour of a 24-hour shift in theatre.
The thing to remember here, though, is that the money is supposed to be poured into the front line. Yeah, it's supposed to go to things like doctors and nurses, for example. But for them to do their job, they need those back office roles that, are being culled by the Ministry of Health to make way for these tax cuts.
100%. Yes.
It's like the administrator who comes into a hospital and goes, "Oh, hi there. Oh, you live in Wellington at Auckland Hospital. Oh, okay. When were you last minute? Okay, I'll get Wellington to fix up the notes." Little things like that. So when the ED doctor comes along, that after you try and and I actually do know that because I actually managed to ask them to fix up last month's notes from Wellington, and this was an administrator. The doctors go, "Oh, we'll need to get the notes from Wellington." Next minute, the administrator's handing the notes. "Oh, here's notes have been requested." He goes, "I don't request this." He goes, "But that answers my question and means he can sit there and get to the assessment then and there, then 15 minutes later." Little small things like that.
Yeah. When it comes to the health sector, though, they seem to have missed out one of their biggest promises that they made during that campaign, and that was funding 13 new cancer drugs. There is no funding in here for that at all.
I don't even think there was a mention of it.
No,
it was crickets.
Yeah.
Have they avoided that, man?
And I see prescription fees are back on the table.
Yes. How's that going to help low-income people that desperately need drugs? Like people that are on supported living. A lot of them need medications.
Yeah.
Or about those who should be on supported living but can't get on there because women are dragging their heels, so they're on job seekers.
I mean, let's just say the good doctor here prescribes me some drugs.
Oh, he's not that type of doctor.
Okay. Sorry, I thought you were a medical doctor. But let's say that my doctor prescribes me some medications, and being on supported living myself, I now have to budget that in again.
Yes.
And that's money that I need for fuel to get down to the pharmacy that's in Pahiatua. That's like $20-$30 for me to go pick up the drugs.
Yeah.
Like age related.
How much of the tax cut do you need?
55 years old above, then you get the free prescription thing. Yeah. So I guess if you reach 55 and
no, you hit 20 scripts a year, they're free. But there's people like me who I probably have 8 prescriptions a year, but I don't have 28 prescriptions. So for me, that's suddenly what you got. 8 prescriptions at $5 pop. That's $40. Is putting that into comparison. Now I can probably make that work because doing it. I mean, my pharmacy, I can walk there. But as like Laura says here, she's got to drive to another town.
The least this government could have done was kept prescription costs free for people on supported living who need those drugs. They could have subsidised
If you have a community
people on supported
services
living.
card, it'll be free.
Right, yeah.
Okay. Oh, well, that benefits me as well, considering my half-price public transport's disappeared.
Yep. Okay, all right. So that's good to know. Yep, thank you.
Okay, that's worth noting.
good point.
Future generations that'll be worse off. More children in poverty and young New Zealanders
So I wonder what
hard
happens to
to
those
make
cancer
a
drugs.
for themselves. All those students who are in
Does that also apply to job seekers, by the way?
getting ready to
It depends on the income, actually. Like my business, the way that things have structured my business, by the time it finally gets income to me, it's in the $20,000 mark. And community services card, I think kicks you as a single person, it's 32 grand.
Oh, okay, all right.
Like, I get it, but my grandma doesn't.
Yep.
And my grandma, the only reason why she doesn't get it is because she's granddad's education pension that pushes her over the limit. But she's not that much above it.
No.
She's like, it's not like she's like 35 grand a year. So she doesn't get it where, because when I did her census, I was like, oh, heck, you're not, she can't get the community service cut, but she's not that much.
And 35 grand per year is not a heck of a lot to live on. It's, you know.
And you think for Granddad for actually going in and taking a reduced pension, so his surviving spouse has a pension post, because he predicted, he was going to die first because he was the older of the two. And it's coming up 18 years. So I mean, that pension's been paying out since the 80s for Granddad until he died, and now it's been paying out for Grandma until she dies. But I mean, he was max paying into it. I'm pretty sure he was max paying into it, and he was getting a principal's pay package. So he would have had a much more generous scheme than the average school teacher, whereas Grandma was only a school teacher at the time. And in the 80s, those generous pension schemes disappeared.
I mean, for comparison, on supported living, I get around about 20 grand a year. So when I say 35 grand is not much to live on, it's not that much more than what someone like me is getting.
Yeah, no, and I know she's doing it comfortable, but on her case, thank goodness she's in a freehold retirement village house. But I mean, my grandparents have been freehold since they lived in Papakofi because their mortgage was paid off when they were in Titahi Bay. So they've been freehold more than more than half of their life. Whereas, put it this way, Paul, are you still paying off a mortgage?
No.
You're freehold now.
Yeah.
Oh, well done.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
It's not possible to do by myself, I should point out.
Can you still pay me a mortgage?
No. I actually wanted to ask, what's this supported living?
It is the former name of the invalid's benefit. So when Paula Bennett was Minister of Social Development, she renamed. She basically brought what was, I think it was 8 benefit categories down to 3 benefit categories, and effectively you used to have the unemployment benefit and the sickness benefit, and then they got merged into one. And then supported living was effectively and you had invalid's benefit, which became supported living payment, which was designed for someone who's got long-term disability needs, so they're probably likely to not work for at least 2 years and possibly never. Like Blake is probably in that boat at the moment. Like, are you on SLP?
Me?
Yeah, I am.
Blake.
Oh,
I am. Yes.
Yeah, and put in Blake's case, he's you're probably not likely to leave it.
No.
But do you still have to go through 2 yearly medicals to prove the fact that you're in a wheelchair and you basically need spend 50% of your life in laying on your bed?
So every year.
Every year to reconfirm that.
Yep, it's the same for me as well. Every year we've got to go down to the doctor's office and plead our case.
No. Every 5 years for the doctor for me.
Oh, okay, yep.
Every 4 years for paperwork.
Yep.
Every year for the other.
Oh, is this for the caregiver part?
Oh yeah, complicated.
Okay, there's multiple processes. Well, that's good for at least in your situation, you don't have to plead your case out every year. For at least you can do it once every 5 years.
So for me, it's every 2 years. I have to go down to the doctor's office. And the supported living payment is also for those that are unable to work over 15 hours a week due to like an injury or whatever.
I actually had a friend who was in that boat of he was medically cleared to work 20 hours a week, but not more. And because he was working more than 15 hours a week but less than 20, he had to go on job seekers.
Yep.
It was which was really frustrating for him because then they started sending him jobs, and because he has epilepsy, and the jobs that are sending him for involved dealing with knives.
Oh my God.
And other things there, like he's done jobs he's qualified for. Like he's got SMT, an SMT cert, so he can hold a stop-go sign. But he basically said, what happens if he's carrying a knife, have a seizure, and stabs himself?
Yeah.
He falls over, the knife falls out his head, and he falls on the floor on top of the knife.
I have a chronic pain disorder, which is complex regional pain syndrome type 2. If I stand for long periods of time, my leg blows up into a balloon because I've got problems with edema. I can't work for more than 50 hours a week. Not where I live, unless it's like remote work or something. But it's tiring living with a chronic pain disorder.
Sounds like you and Stacey need to talk to each other.
Yeah.
Because that's how Stacey ended up in the role of remote editor for It's in the Ballot. Was because when 2022 she was the camera person, and basically when Eddie left, she said, "I'm taking Eddie's position." So 2022 It's in the Ballot shows were all being remote edited from someone in Auckland. In 2023, all of them will be remote edited from someone in Wellington.
Right.
Which which is quite intriguing considering we had shows in Auckland. Yeah.
I'll be back in just a jiffy, guys.
From the Taxpayers Union about today?
Sorry, what about the Taxpayers Union?
Have you seen their statement about the budget?
No. I'll check the inbox to see if it's there.
So they ain't fans. They don't think it goes far enough.
So
I've not received an email from them yet.
I found it on the News Hub website on their live stream for the day.
Oh, okay.
The Taxpayers Union is calling the budget the mother of all disappointments. Nicola Willis' first budget is the mother of all disappointments, says Taxpayer Union, failing all three tests the National Party were elected to deliver on. Tax reductions amount to just half the cost of the average workers of 14 years of inflation, pushing them into higher marginal tax brackets. Instead of delivering the required $49 per week for the average earner, Willis has delivered just half that at $24.89 for the average worker. This amounts to a reversal of just the last 3 years of fiscal drag. Reducing the size of government back to pre-COVID levels after an 84% increase in spending and hiring an extra 18,000 bureaucrats. Instead of cutting spending, the budget 2024 spends $12.7 billion more than Grant Robinson's largest last year. And Nicola Willis has totally failed to balance the books with the date for surplus pushed back the year. This is a breach of the first fiscal principle listed in National's pre-election fiscal plan. The deficit for the year ahead is even larger than the current year. Instead of stopping the debt clock, Nicola Willis is making it tick faster and for longer.
Well, what about Sam? You were saying that you did some calculator, your tax calculator, and you were saying
I went and used it on my I went on the computer.
Yeah. I mean, were you saying that you would get like $28 to your pocket net a week or something?
I get $3.50. I get $2.15 from
is that the same under the new calculator?
Approximately, yeah. Which Treasury's calculator?
If you just type in budget 24, it'll come up.
I mean, that could be helpful, guys. I mean, like, it is really $28, right? I mean, for the lower and middle, I'm not sure what the middle gets, but if you get $28, is that a fortnight or a week? That could be helpful. I mean, Sam was doing the calculations, and it was $28 anyway. Well, I mean, it does spread across the board, not only the rich. I mean, the middle and the lower income.
For me, the tax savings are still the same of $3.15 a week, or free Chubba Chup lollipop.
Right.
So free Chubba Chup lollipops, Nicola. Free Chubba Chup lollipops.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Hence my reference on the Chum Chums. It's the reason why I bought 2 packets of Chum Chum lollipops for the show, for props. And they're probably going to end up in a bowl in the lounge that my flatmates will take the next 6 months to eat.
Right. Okay. Now, what was that $28 you're talking about a week? Was that the 10,000? If you get these 10,000,
That was if they made the first tax bracket
oh, right. Okay.
zero tax instead of 10.5%.
Right. Are they doing that or what? Yeah. Would they be doing that?
Just 6 months ago, he thought exploring
Well, no, they're not. They're lifting the tax brackets.
Yeah, I didn't hear that. The flat tax thing the Act wanted, they didn't know.
And he's not doing any of that at this point in time.
Can I jump in, Sam?
Go ahead, Blake. You're welcome to jump in.
Our video is going to be very interesting. I think.
He actually
Paul?
didn't count on Chris
I
Hipkins
think
being
so.
his ally for re-election in 2026. But I got to say, Mr. Speaker,
What is Luxon going on about?
sorry sight.
He's complaining about Chris Hipkins' speech.
And it was sorry because
Chippy.
here's the truth. He had 6 years in power. 6 years in power, and deep down,
No,
when
he
he looks
was
in the
just-
mirror each morning, he knows
No,
that
he
he messed
wasn't
it up
Prime
and he
Minister for
blew
that
it
long,
big
mate.
time. That's
No,
what
but
he
he
did.
wasn't government.
And
so
once
that's
again, as I
technically
said,
right.
that speech, as I've said before, illustrated Chris Hipkins. He is the arsonist that returns to the scene of the fire that he lit, and then he tries to criticise us as the fire brigade putting it out, and
He's an
that's exactly
arsonist.
what happened. But let's remind New Zealanders as to the firestorm that Chris Hipkins and Labor created, because here's the record. Here's the record. They hired 18,000 more public servants, and yet they delivered worse results. And I've got to tell you, that's a special and a unique skill set to be able to deliver
Worse than
that.
who?
He increased government spending by 84%, and he taxed everyone a lot more in the process. He borrowed more. We went from $5 billion to almost $100 billion worth of debt. We're now paying $9 billion in interest payments.
These
That's
are,
$9 billion we don't have to spend
It's
on
like he's
schools and
electioneering.
hospitals and
He's just
infrastructure in our
pulling
kids
out
in
the
New
election
Zealand.
lines. These numbers are bad, but doesn't give the details as to what those things were spent on. There was kind of how many businesses donated money to Luxon's campaign that would have taken that business supplement, the wage subsidy.
Well, it's nice
Yeah,
to see that Winston is writing speeches for him now.
Oh yeah.
It's
Your
fair,
Winston's
it's
traditional voter base is going to be livid with this. Yeah, before the budget, they were on track to get, I think it was a $13 increase in the pension based on the way that it's indexed, and now it's going to be what, $2.15 per person? Like, it's ridiculous. His senior citizen voters are going to be absolutely livid.
It should have been much shorter.
Yeah, I'll actually do that based on being grandma.
And the two words should have been thank you. And it should have been
grandma's
thank
income.
you, coalition government, and thank you, Nicola Willis.
Did you just hear what he said?
He should thank them.
Yeah, he said the previous government should be thanking
Nicola
him.
Willis and coalition government for putting out the fire. Thank you for cleaning up my ungodly mess.
The
Well
other
done,
thing that's
coalition
quite
government. That
funny
would have
is
sufficed. That's
it's
all
a
it
bit
needed to
rich.
be.
Him
But Mr.
saying
Speaker, I've got to say,
they
wasn't
started
that
a fire.
brilliant budget? A brilliant budget from Nicola Willis.
They haven't had a day where they haven't been putting out a fire.
Showing us anything, it's actually that we need a caring, intelligent.
We need someone to sit and come up with a cartoon of what do you call it, a fire hose in that $20 notes.
Outstanding
Yeah.
finance minister.
You know,
And our economic plan is very simple in this government. It's about rebuilding the economy so we can get rid of inflation and reduce the cost of living. It's about
Inflation's
restoring
coming
law
down
and order,
naturally, you
and it's so
dumbass.
peaceful
Yeah,
and feel safe
inflation
in
was
their
coming
homes,
down under
businesses, and
Labor as
communities.
well.
And it's about
It might go up.
we deliver better public services.
Well, I mean, they're
on
borrowing what,
education and
$15 billion
healthcare.
to
That is
pay
how we get
for
New
how
Zealand
much?
back on track.
Oh no, sorry, they're putting in an
But Mr.
operational
Speaker,
cost.
despite all the wittering we heard from Chris Hipkins
Oh,
and
yeah.
Labor, do you think they're actually
Just
interested
a
in
quick note to the
restoring
people
and
watching
rebuilding
it
our
live.
economy? No.
Looks like
Do they support fast-track legislation so we can actually get things
Go
done in this
ahead,
country?
Blake.
No. After spending
But the cost of living was pretty high when Labor was in charge for the last 2 years before the elections. I mean, every one of us experienced it. So maybe the current government did some good, because I know these prices of eggs might have gone down. Like I remember the time there was like, you won't believe it, 12 eggs for $16. So it's kind of
So
gone
that's
down
actually a
to
really interesting
12
example because the egg
$11.
price thing that went up was
Yeah.
because of a law change that National put into place. And the egg producing industry, the Hegler industry, didn't adapt in time, knowing that they had a 7 or 8 year lead up to it. They never adapted in time, which meant that we ended up with a stock shortage when that law change came into place. So
I thought
it's
it
one of
was,
those things a lot of people point out and go,
I
oh,
thought it
look,
was that
cost of
two
living, this is
chicken
a really
farms
clear
that
example. That was lack of planning and lack of organization from an industry for years and years that led us to that point.
I thought it was the two chicken farms that got burned down, the ones with like 50,000 chickens. I'm going to use the word open and close inverted commas under suspicious circumstances. Maybe some extreme greedy or something. No offense there, Sam, but is it not to do with that, or is actually more?
Was this about the egg prices?
Do they deliver better
Right?
health outcomes for Māori?
The
They
egg
definitely
prices.
didn't do that.
Okay, but it was pretty high. Like, yeah.
I mean, the egg prices was one where effectively businesses refused to adapt, or hoping that they were going to have a law change that to reverse what happened, that it never did. Because I do remember the amount of like the trays of eggs from Moshins. They were getting up to $18 for a pack of 30, and when we first started selling them, they were $8.
It was pretty high. Like, it's
It's
gone down a bit. You know? I mean, like you get size 6 and 7s for around like $6 or $7 now.
No, you can. In some cases, it's nearly $1 an egg. I mean, we can sarcastically sit there and say this: smashed avocado on toast went up in price, and the egg was the one that went up. The egg went, oh no, wait a minute! The smashed avocado on toast have eggs in them?
Well, pies have eggs or pies, and well, you get an egg pie will have eggs. But you know, the crust, the pie crust will have eggs. But I don't know. I'm not the expert.
We gotta love our economics around here.
Pavlova, we Kiwi Pavlova.
Yeah.
Conspiracy against our Kiwi Pavlovas.
So I did put on here Grandma's pay packet into the calculator based on her super, and it will give her an extra $30.75 a fortnight. But remember, her income is about $35,000 a year.
All right, yeah.
Fiscally neutral tax
You see the announcement
I'm
around
not sure if it would be that
exactly
much.
as we promised within the
I mean, what will your grandma be able to do the extra $20? I mean, does she live in a rural area or anything like that?
No. She lives in a retirement village on the Canterbury Coast.
Okay.
But then on that hand, it could be the fact that I think the total mobility subsidy just got dropped to 50%. I'm not 100% sure. And Blake would be the better one to know because he actually uses it a lot more than I would. But like Grandma's like, she was getting down to the point with when total mobility was at 75%. She'd go from her home to the coastlands, the shopping centre on a $5 note.
I just want to make a point here because before Chris Bishop was talking about how the $5,000 home grant wasn't helpful for people. Yet I just did some calculations about your grandma's income. She's expected to get like $1,000 extra a year. What is that going to do to help her?
Well, it means she might have the heater on a bit longer during the day. I don't know. I mean, she might be able to order more of those meals because I know she's cut back on the cooking. But then I'll probably end up making up a whole heap of vegetable stuff for her and take it up to her anyway. Because I've done that a few times where I've just dropped off a whole heap of stuff that she can just basically chuck in the oven to roast, and she can throw in the meat she wants on top. But that was done after Canterbury Village sat there and changed the menu, and half the menus of the items on there didn't even have a vegetable-based content meal.
They're going to love this budget.
I think in the rurals, you could get like a cup of cappuccino and sausage roll, I guess. The grandma can have like, well, that's about $10. So grandma's going to get like $2 of a nice coffee, ambience, nice sausage rolls.
Yeah, I mean, got a few holiday grandma buy.
Infrastructure in this country.
You know,
we're going to get Kiwis moving, and we're going to get this.
Yeah, it's looking at that. I mean, she was 96.
So there's a lot of money for fantastic new roads of national significance. Yeah.
I see that when it comes to roads of national significance that Chris is talking about, did you see their announcement for the ferries?
Oh, yes.
What are they playing on the ferries?
We're going to look into it, but let's buy a new tugboat for when the current ones break down.
Yes, I remember that. And it's like we had a fully costed out plan. Well, no, the ferry part was costed out. It was the terminals that were a bit cost significantly more, and it was actually because when Kiwi Rail ran their model, they had it where the ferry terminal was on King's Wharf, and the regional council, the main shareholder of Centreport, wanted to say, they said, no, we want you to be back where the existing ferry terminal is, by there, and that was closer to the fault line. So that was one of the things that brought up the cost, because the insurers, to insure Kiwi Rail, want the piles dug in 70 metres deep to withstand a 10 earthquake on the Richter scale.
If you genuinely cared about it.
Which, to be honest, if we could withstand an earthquake that was 10 on the Richter scale to keep the country's ferry system flowing, it's not bad investment. And put it this way, it is cheaper than the proposed deep bore tunnel that has been proposed for Wellington, to have a tunnel from the Terrace Tunnel to Mount to Burnie. That's going to cost more than what it will cost for the ferry terminal upgrades and everything that National has cancelled.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, and that ferry terminal, to be honest, would deliver a lot more dividend to the country than a deep bore tunnel underneath Wellington. I still want the deep bore tunnel, but I don't believe. I believe the ferry stuff delivers way more dividend than a deep bore tunnel will deliver. A deep bore tunnel, literally, the one thing it would do is alleviate a lot of the emptiness around the Basin Reserve and the Mount Vic Tunnel and all that sort of. Because the proposal they've been pushing for years was literally double the existing tunnel capacity where it is, which just means you'll get to the traffic jam quicker.
Yeah, I mean, I think ferries are a bit more urgent than tunnels at the moment.
Exactly. I mean, put it this way. We've been pushing a two-lane Mount Victoria tunnel that's 2.7 metres wide per lane for the last, since last 90-something years. You know?
To support those frontline services.
Well, I'm sure we can cope an extra 5-10 years on that. Whereas no ferries for the country, we're screwed.
Who needs delivery service anyways? Who needs to ship stuff down from the North Island to the South Island? Who needs to do that?
Only national voters in the agriculture industry.
Yeah.
Who think this budget is amazing.
$1.5 billion in this budget to fund and build new classrooms and maintain existing
ones. Is he still doing his election speech?
$67 million
20 minutes.
Structured literacy, so we teach our kids same way.
Oh my God. I don't have 20 minutes because I've got other things to do.
And Mr. Speaker, we know it from the Labour side. We
basically have switched off. Like, we're watching the subtitle go through there. We're mentioning other shit. That's how boring it is.
Yeah, it's like, dude, the election's over. Come on, mate.
The ideology.
Yeah, but it'll be another one in 6 months' time when Winston throws his toys. So, he's got to be on the game all the time.
And the future would look so much brighter, wouldn't it?
Well, it's his call to call an election because it's the Prime Minister's call. It's not the Leader of the Opposition. It is not it's not ranked number 2 in Cabinet or ranked number 3, the Assistant Prime Minister David Seymour. And we've got to call in that role, like of Assistant Prime Minister, until
of the time.
it switches, until he becomes deputy, and then we're going to call Winston the assistant prime minister. Consider, if you remember how schools you went, oh, you'll have a deputy principal, but you'll have an assistant principal as well, who was the next person who stepped in when the deputy was away.
Labor spent truckloads, didn't they? They spent truckloads. They restructured the healthcare system. They moved the
So they're
bureaucracy
reducing the
around. They
infrastructure
shuffled
investment.
paper and people. But at the end of the day,
But, I
what are
mean,
we going to
Labour
show
is
for
spend
them?
a lot,
What are we going
right?
to show
So
for them?
really, I mean, like
Nothing.
10 billion
Nothing,
for
that's
the
right.
Tainga
We've
Hora
got
and just
increased
100
wait times for emergency
houses.
departments. We've got increased wait times for
That's
first
very
specialist
few for 10
appointments
billion. I
and
mean,
elective surgeries.
if
We've
Sam
got
and I had
less
a
kids
company,
being
we
immunised under the
10
age of
billion,
2
Sam, I think
who
we
are not
would do like
protected.
a
And we're going
10,000
to fix
houses,
it. And we're
right?
going to
Just,
have Dr. Shane
I mean,
Reddy
just
shake it up,
off
and
the
that's what he's
cuff.
going to do.
Well, I'd love it if they sat there and whacked 5,000 of them in Wellington. They can put 2,000 in Newtown. We need even got a plan to build them
That's
from the
why we're
local
changing the
residents
leadership. And in
association.
this year's budget, we are going to make
And
big
this is the
investments
same
that's
plan that
focused on the front
the
line.
Labour and the Green
Billions of dollars to
councillors,
health, to
I'm
fund
not sure
nurses
about
and
Muradin
doctors,
though,
the
not
Kiwis
sure,
get
but the
those
Labour and
services
Green
when they're unwell and when they
councillors
need it.
said no to.
$1.8 billion to lock in permanent funding for farmers
Yeah,
after Labour put those medicines at risk for everyday Kiwis. And I got to say, it's about the little things too, right? It's about the little things. The $24 million going to Gumboot Friday to help
I have not been able to
15,000
find any information.
He's very proud about
on
Gumboot
the
Friday, isn't he?
desperately need those free
The
counselling
Gumbo thing
sessions
seems
so
helpful,
that they
okay,
can
for the
move
young
forward with
kids,
their
right?
lives
For
and
the
deal with some of their mental health
teenagers
challenges.
and
And we are all proud of that
all that
commitment on this
stuff.
side.
Of
We are proud of that
too much on the
commitment.
social
So what
media.
did Labor say about that?
Yeah,
Well, they
Gumboot
said it
Friday
tin
was,
pot
I think it was
politics.
one of the years that
They said it was
they did not
disturbing.
apply for the funding in
They
time
said it
or
diminished
apply at
trust in
all,
the
and
democratic
then they
process.
complained
Well,
they
here is
didn't
what
get
I
it.
think erodes trust in the democratic process.
And it's
It's a
basically
useless
been a
previous
political
government that didn't
football
deliver
ever since
anything
that
for
they've
New
been playing
Zealanders.
on.
That's what erodes trust in the democratic
Yeah.
process.
Gumboot
That's
Friday.
what does it.
Isn't that like for
What
young
Labor
people?
didn't learn
What
in
about
6
what about
years
the
is
older
that
demographic
Kiwis
of
don't
people
just
that need
want
counselling?
activity, they want achievement, they want
I don't know, they
delivery,
might
they
call
want
it
a government
EPA,
ethics, and that's what we're doing here. Well,
was
Mr.
it
Speaker, I have
an
to say I want
employment
to thank
equivalent
our
something?
coalition partners who have worked incredibly hard.
Well, it's a
on
shame the
this budget.
taxpayers union hasn't actually sent out
Incredibly
the
hard.
email yet to my
David Seymour
inbox.
and the ACT Party, we have a minister who actually gets that red tape is
They,
creating
they,
the
they must
construction
be trying to
economy,
figure out
and he gets the impact that
what to
charter
put in
schools
there
are
to
going to
say
have
they're
and
not
the difference
happy.
they're going to make for kids.
Oh yeah,
across New
here's a
Zealand,
thing from
and it's
Gumboot
great to see
Friday.
those things funded in this budget.
Gumboot Friday
And we've got
counselling
Winston Peters
service,
in New
right?
Zealand first, and I want to say
Hang
thank
on.
you for what they've done as well.
It's not designed.
Because
It's
we
not
finally
intended
have a
for
foreign
long-term
minister
funding
now
solutions.
who's out there
It's a
championing for New
short-term
Zealand on the
solution.
world stage after 3 years of Labor sitting here at home.
So
sitting on their
basically, it
hands.
sounds like it will take the boost of
And
the
New Zealand
problem,
First
but
believe
wouldn't
in
actually.
economic development. They do, and that's why we're
It would
seeing a
say,
regional
Bob,
infrastructure
sounds like
fund
you're
that's going
describing
to
there,
deal with
acts
things
like
like
the
flood
emergency
protection.
room, but
We're
not
seeing them
not
make
the
sure that they
GP.
accelerate fast
Correct.
track consenting. So we
Yeah,
can get
they're
things
going to be
done. So I wanna say
funding
thank you
one
to
counselling
our
session
partners
per week
there
per
as well, Mr.
client
Speaker.
from an initial
Mr.
two-session
Speaker, I have to
allocation.
say, this is a
You
very
need a
good
lot
budget.
more counselling
It
than
is
two
a very good
sessions,
budget
if I'm reading that
from
correctly.
a very good finance minister, Nicola Willis. And we
Yeah,
are so
I don't
proud
know
of her.
why
We
they're
are so
shouting
proud
from
of
the
Nicola Willis.
rooftops
And I'm
about
telling you, New
this
Zealand
amazing
is damn
Gumboot
lucky
Friday.
to
I mean,
have her in
it's
this
an amazing
role, and
organisation,
she
don't get
is
me
an
wrong, but
excellent finance
we
minister.
need
We
a bit
just saw
more
that
than
today.
Gumboot Friday.
That possibly means they need to relook
Mr.
at actually
Speaker,
the
this
way that
is
they
a
structure
careful
their
budget.
process.
This
You
is
know,
a
maybe
budget
instead
for
of it being
the
2
squeeze middle. This
sessions,
is a
maybe it could
budget
be
for
10.
difficult times.
Yeah,
It's a budget that,
initial
despite
two-session
the mess
allocation.
and the
That's
difficult economic conditions that
am
we've
I reading that
inherited from
correctly?
the
Does that mean
previous
you only get
government,
two
that
sessions?
actually has still found a way
Yes.
to
This is a
spend more
preliminary
money on
one
health,
where, I mean, I used to
more
work
money
as a
on
counsellor
education,
in
more money
Singapore
on
and
law and order.
the drug
Those
rehab
are
unit.
the
And I think
things that New
the first
Zealanders
2 or
care
3,
about.
right, just to
Those are the
assess
things that New
whether
Zealanders
there's
want
any
us to
need
deliver
for
for them. So, Mr.
intensive
Speaker, it is
psychological
a
counselling,
budget that is
you know, it
actually for
depends
all
on
those
suicide
Kiwis
or
and all those
addictions and all
families
that.
have
So
had to tighten
first to
their
refer to
belts
the
over the last
initial
couple of
one,
years. All
which
those
is free,
businesses
and
that have
then
done the same
probably
thing,
if you need to
and now
go
they
on
have a government
further
with good
and
financial
you get a
management
referral
tightening
from
its
the
own
doctor,
belts
and
as
then
well.
it will be like
Mr.
ongoing.
Speaker, can
And
I just say in closing,
I
this
think
is a
what's
budget
yeah.
that starts
So
to restore
it's
the
kind
promise
of
of New Zealand.
a hand
The
up, or
promise
not
is
a
pretty
hand
simple.
out, where
Is that
you
if you're
get the
prepared to
two
work
initial ones free
hard
as a
in the best
student,
country
or
on planet
whatever
Earth,
each
you
reason.
deserve and
And
should
if
be
you
able to get
feel that
ahead.
there's a need to
And so,
be
Mr. Speaker,
a
I just
more
say to you,
honed-in
this is a
focus,
budget that is going to
then we
start
can
to
proceed
get
to
New
get a
Zealand
referral
back
to
on track.
someone in the school, to go to the parents and make the necessary referrals for longer-term counseling. I think that's what it's meant to be, like a, not like a jump start, like a spark plug to get the car going. that says that let the team and ours vote, but at least you kind of get into the ours vote later. We go to a case where it becomes more than that. One of the highest speaks out rights in the world. So, yeah.
Who's up next?
I'm not sure, but can I just point out, this sign language interpreter that they've got now, he's the one who's been working within government for a while now. He has lost a lot of weight. He's looking really good.
Today, the coalition
He's looking trim.
showed us their true colours. It's a mean and nasty budget. That's what it is. They had the choice to be bold and invest in our people and our planet, but instead, they have actively undermined our collective ability to support each other and restore Papatūānuku. This is a cynical budget that serves mostly the short-term interests of a few and ignores the long-term challenges that we all face in Aotearoa. The government has chosen to preserve poverty and remain a not-so-innocent bystander to the unfolding climate crisis with an incredibly unambitious budget for Aotearoa.
I don't even think they mentioned the climate,
everything we need in Aotearoa to make sure everyone can live in dignity. There is enough to make sure everyone has a warm, dry, affordable, accessible home, food on the table, enough money left over at the end of the week to not worry about the power bill, restoring our living systems, our biodiversity, climate action that our mokopuna will be proud of. The government could have chosen to rebalance how we share the benefits of this country's success, shifting the tax burden from those who earn the least and making sure that those accumulating huge wealth pay their fair share, just their fair share. It could have. This government could have put in place an income guarantee so no matter what, everyone has what they need to live a quality life. Everyone. It could have given everyone free dental care. It could have. And yet, the government has prioritised trickle-down tax cuts for landlords. We see who they are governing for. It is for their uber-wealthy mates. But the Greens are here for the many and not just the few. We are here for Te Tiriti o Waitangi. And we are here for Papatūānuku. Mō te mana o Te Tiriti. Mō te oranga o te taiao. Mō ngā tūmanako o ngā tamariki me ngā mokopuna. E te māngai. It is plain to see in today's budget that the coalition government simply does not care about environmental impact, does not care about everything that sustains us, our forests, our beaches, our rivers that mean so much to all of us as citizens, as people of Aotearoa. They have gone neglected completely in this budget. That is a choice this government made. 4,000 of our native species are threatened with extinction, and yet there is no new funding to protect them. It is a tragic truth that based on the choices that government has made in this budget, our taonga Indigenous native species are a step closer to extinction. For shame. They are cutting the conservation budget.
How do you feel about Manama's speech just talking about, here's what we campaigned for, why isn't it in the budget? Is it just me or does everyone
why it wouldn't be in the budget for the opposition? It's so weird. Hey, about an hour ago, very left-leaning economist Shamubeel Iqbal actually released a whole bunch of really fascinating statistics about the budget.
Oh, good.
Based on relative spending relative to GDP. The health budget spend, for example, has been in a steady decline over the last 12 months and will continue to decline, but it reached its all-time highest percentage of GDP under Jacinda Ardern's government has been decreasing ever so slightly since then, and it is still higher than it has been for the last 50 years. The education budget is in point to the GDP is at the lowest point it has been since 1984. The law and order budget is the lowest point it has been since 2005. The defence budget's actually been pretty standard as a percentage of GDP since the mid-90s, so there hasn't been an increase or a decrease there. And the amount of money spent on transport and communications has plummeted to the lowest point it has been since 1996. So in terms of how much we're getting for GDP, like the percentage of our GDP that goes towards the budget, we're seeing massive drops in the amount of spend coming from this new budget.
Well, I think we need to expand our trade, like, not simply say, let's just get back on track and create more trading arrangements. And I mean, it's clearly to depend on just one Asia-Pacific country or dictatorship and then rely on that for business, although it's the largest economy, but rather like, AUKUS, our allies, UK, we have like 1 trillion economy, GDP, British pounds, and Canada is 1 trillion Canadian, and there's 2 of our AUKUS partners, and Australia is around 1 trillion, and US is 3 trillion, right? So if we were just to do just trading before them, just then, not even considering EU's 27 countries, but we are going to be making like 5-6 times more than with any other specific, well, like China, we can focus on the trade with them and still do trade with them, but we could sort of enlarge the pike. I mean, with all our trusted allies, we're still going to steal our patents, our copyrights, and, make a cheaper version straight away. I mean, we will be protected. They have all the rules of law and common law, plus the other laws that they respect, rules-based. I'm sure Hipkins also say rules-based. So if we foolishly put all our eggs in one basket, which is known for high school economics, which is what we did with one country, and allow them to dictate terms to us with their non-democratic way of life. I mean, this could be also one of the macroeconomic causes of our economy now in doldrums due to our over-reliance on an ideologically based Marxist, used to be Mao's Little Red Book, and now it's no offense to these people. I'm sure they are all, we respect them, whatever their ideological views, but that could have affected our economy because we're so over-reliant on just cheap products rather than spread the basket around. I mean, like, look, even in share portfolios, like the Talent Fund, which was great, so they give credit where it's due, colored it well. Hey, Mike, you spread across the board. You don't buy just banks, you buy blue chip shares, banks, technology, right? All the heavy stuff. And then you buy the speculative ones, the technology ones, the more speculative shares, and then you buy the medium range ones. And that's what we do in trading, but let's not confuse trading and economy in the large economy. We reliance on only one single powerful economy, and then get us into the
well, I mean, we are very reliant on milk exports, which I believe we need to actually diversify away from. We're reliant on log exports.
I'll just protocol that point. Yes, we desperately need to diversify our economy. New Zealand actually has a really awesome opportunity to develop our green tech industry. We could reduce shipping costs of goods if we were to transition over to things like hydrogen-powered cargo ships. Shipping's a big expense. We should be focusing on ways on how to lower the prices of shipping, so people will be more incentivized to buy our products.
How do we, the big question is, how do we generate hydrogen? And can that be domestically generated?
That's an excellent question and one I'll need to look more into. But I do know that China has hydrogen-powered cargo ships. I'll have to look more into that.
Because the big thing is, it's like if you domestically, if it can be domestically produced, it means you can sit there and have the cargo ship terminal at either end of between point A and point B. So say if ports of Auckland, ports of Tauranga or Centreport, or ports of Littleton or Nelson, or like if they had hydrogen refueling facilities there, because we could domestically produce it, it means the ship can leave China, and I gather most of the ships when they leave, they don't need to stop for fuel on the way, they get to their destination. I know typically when you get to your destination is when you tend to refuel, top up your water, discharge your sewerage, sort of thing. But if both ends have hydrogen,
Yep.
that at least could go, well, New Zealand's an attractive place to send our ships to. But yeah, that would be the
also our product. I mean, Sam, like, look, we have so many great TV inventors, right? And I just don't know why we don't harness them, keep our patents for ourselves, and then make deals to produce them other countries, but make sure that our patents are not taken away. Like, we had this battery, this wonder battery thing. I remember people with Ihara developed a battery that never ends. And then we sold it to the US for $55 million. I mean, I said, my God, we could have harnessed that battery technology. We could have developed it and then make deals with Ford, Toyota, and don't sell them the battery rights, but sell them the right to use the battery. And today we would be making billions. We would be like an Ikea, a Nokia, or Finland, or Ikea, or Sweden.
Well, I mean, that was also said about the ferry the ferry terminal replacement plan. We were the first country in the world to have a hybrid ferry service in the world. I mean, I think we weren't the first country in the world to have a electric flight electric flight across the body of water, which was from Blenheim to Wellington. And that's something I do believe could revolutionise New Zealand, is the fact that if we were utilising electricity to power our short-haul flights instead of gas, it would take, and they said the energy difference was, it was something like it used $4 worth of electricity to go across the Cook Strait. It would have used $60 worth of gas. And like the ferry terminal one, like it was got those ships, these two brand new ships that they were looking at that were purpose built, which I wouldn't be surprised if we would have ended up with three in the long term. We would have probably had 10 years time when we got a duplicate made. They would have used 40% less fuel than the current ferries used across the Cook Strait. And it would also be, they would also be not running, where they would be utilising or where they'd be using the more fossil fuel part would be in the middle of the Cook Strait, not in the Marlborough Sounds or in the port, was it Wellington Harbour? So the areas of where they'll be using more battery power in the areas where you kind of needed, to reduce the noise, reduce the pollution, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it is potentially a profitable way to respond to climate change, is by supporting our green tech industry. There is a real opportunity for growth there and an incentive because of our proximity away from other countries.
Well, we've had problems in the past where we've been so determined to work on one specific area of export. When that crumbled, it's poured out in the whole economy. In the late 50s, wool was our biggest export, and that suddenly tanked and it took the economy with it. We need to diversify, and we've got the tools now to be able to do that in a far better way, a far more economically viable way.
Yes, I agree with you guys. I mean, every one of us in agreement with our views, right?
Well, we are. I mean, put it this way: we're around the cabinet table right now. How do you think the budget would be? I think we probably would have a much different budget to what's being presented out there. But we're not around the cabinet table. We're around the ballot table.
Yeah, I think our budget would be a lot more bipartisan.
Yeah, and there'd probably be one less petulant child crying in the corner that people are being mean to him when they try and give stuff to Māori.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, what do you call it? Currency speculators wouldn't like me if we had one of my policies in the budget. But, I mean, you know, it would actually make our dollar a lot more stable if we had an international financial transaction tax.
We must be bold and
Right, I unfortunately have to rush. I have another meeting popping up in 15 minutes and I need to do things before that meeting.
No problem. Thanks for joining us, Paul.
Good luck with whatever the rest of this budget is going to roll out, because I'm sure there'll be some hidden surprises. Actually finding the budget document itself is not the easiest thing to do sometimes.
You might be able to use some of the tax cuts for your beer or something.
Well, I have to confess, I don't do badly out of the tax cuts. So, I know I feel like a class traitor knowing I do okay out of them. But at the same
time, you know, 6-figure salary, 6-figure lifestyle, and you've got what it's like to live off 5 figures.
That's definitely not a problem for me. It's more a case of I would rather the money that I got was being invested into other areas that need it more. I can go without the money that I get back in a tax return.
Put it this way, it could. These tax cuts could be a problem for you because do lower income people use your services?
No.
Oh, okay, all right, fair enough.
No, it's not. No, my business is because I sell coffee. But yeah, not Paul's work. No.
My client base is international, so this doesn't impact.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, you probably put a lot of stuff for a zero rated on your GST returns then.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, I'll let you guys do it. Good luck with the rest of the show.
That's all. All right, see you, mate.
So I wonder if we're going to have possibly for maybe the next budget special, we need to get someone who goes to the lockup.
The way that we share wealth and power.
Who would be keen to go to the lockup and be stuck out in the world for 8 hours writing up your stories by hand because you can't actually. You've got to hand in your cell phones and your electronic devices.
We have enough to go around to ensure everyone.
I mean, because I wonder if Rex Widdestrom ended up going to lockup because he's always he's a journalist, but often when he goes to budget lockups, it's because an international news organisation wants to cover the New Zealand budget, and he's the go-to person.
Mr. Speaker, I tried to have a look in this budget for anything, and I actually feel aroha for Minister Karen Chor, who I know is serious about her work to prevent violence. If anyone on the government benches can help me out, I couldn't find a single new initiative for family violence and sexual violence prevention funding. I looked in justice, corrections, MSD, police, public service, health, education. I couldn't find anything, and I know that is an area that was desperately in need of more funding. Desperately in need of more funding. You're slashing housing, public housing, rangatahi housing, Māori housing. That's violence prevention. When people have a home, when people have incomes, when communities are well and strong,
don't be quiet.
We need to understand that is violence prevention. But I haven't even seen any more funding for the Kaupapa Māori-led initiatives who have been begging for more and more funding for a long time. The evidence is there. The evidence is there about what works over generation when it comes to prevention violence. I feel sad for Minister Chor. I feel aroha for all of the stakeholders, all of the frontline workers, victims and those who must have support to stop using violence. I feel sad for the trajectory of that mahi, and I am calling that out. Mr. Speaker, I also want to say again, the Jobs for Nature funding, The impact on rangatahi in the communities who are finally feeling connected to looking after their whenua, their rivers, the joy on their faces, the sense of purpose, the sense of connection not just to their living systems but to their culture. Incredibly important, Mahi. I'm so disappointed but not surprised that this government does not care about the good work that had finally started happening and has not found any hope to be able to fund it. Mr. Speaker, these are choices. They're all choices. We should never allow for any government to pretend like we cannot afford to end poverty, like we cannot afford to end homelessness. We can. We just have to make those choices. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, quick. Notice Te Pāti Māori is still not there.
No, I think they're still protesting.
Honourable David Seymour.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I got to tell you, every time I hear Marama Davidson give a speech, I appreciate and miss James Shaw just a little bit more.
Oh, good God.
Someone should call the physics department because she actually managed to slow down time. The last 5 minutes of her speech felt like about 15.
Sorry, David, but we don't have a physics department anymore. You shut it down.
Yeah, you cut funding, mate.
Coalition leaders, Winston Peters and Christopher
I'd love to have a physics department. Where is it?
Budget
I
ministers,
don't know, David Seymour covered.
ministers, Chris Bishop.
I didn't even know we had one.
And
Nicola
Willis, who I've watched.
Now, just for us, of those who are wondering at home, what is your PhD in, Eric?
Van Velden, fellow ex-party ministers and parliamentarians. This is a very important day. It's an important day for New Zealand because.
Did you catch what I just asked, Eric?
Sorry, Eric. What's your PhD in?
Well, it's not a PhD. It's honorary doctorate, and I was actually doing my PhD then in Stanford College in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and was also a lecturer in sociology there for the London School of Economics. Their twinning branch, that means they have a branch in Malaysia, and people who study there save like 2 years of money before they go to England. So I was teaching the sociology for the Bachelor of Laws. So my doctorate was basically on geostrategic analysis of international relations with what's happening around the geopolitics of the world. At that time was the peak period of Cold War, the Soviet Union thing, and just after the Soviet Union. So my thesis was in the hypothesis was to develop a geostrategic what we call geostrategic analytics, like a system that you can study that can be used for businesses and used for politics and for a lot of fields, international relations. And so I was given an honorary doctorate for reasons of security, security in the sense of our five-power defense arrangement, which we have New Zealand, Singapore, Malaysia, Australia, UK, where we attack all the four will protect the other, and also under the security provisions of the Five Eyes. It's kind of too sensitive to be published. So, so I never published, so I never use it for applying for jobs because, well, I should. I mean, when I was in Germany, we have an NGO there working for one of the largest NGOs, the umbrella of doing research on behalf of the European Commission on Hate Crime for Germany. Means they set up 27 for each country, so it can be balanced and independent. The report can be typical of every country's how they approach hate crime. So I was selected for that, but why I'm sharing about that is because one of the NGO people say in Germany, we would encourage you to use your honorary doctorate because it's a legitimate piece of paper and you should have used it well. So I kind of don't want to use it because academically I didn't get it. But kind of I got it in the sense that I had done my paper and done that policy, whatever it was, but it would have been published for everyone in the world to see. So it would be advisable because, not everyone for democracy, not every country supports democracy like us, and it would not be advisable to give it to the knowledge of how you can do the analytics. This was way back, 1990s, and I probably got the mention, so I can share with you. It's really defense and intelligence.
So when we say that
Well,
we're doing taxes, that is not spending.
Democracy and Australia, UK. So I can't divulge it to you. And you probably ask me, I'll say I have dementia.
Yeah, Joseph, well, I'll probably have asked, but I mean, our viewers know that. Only because, like Laura said, I get the doctor to write out a script.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you were a medical doctor. I didn't realize that you had like a doctorate in economics, honorary doctorate. Yeah, no, that's awesome.
I mean, I should have been and I could have been, but I might do it again. I might try to finish my doctorate. Yeah, because I got an honors degree, first class from Waikato Uni. Thankful for that, and that means I can go directly into PhD for international relations or politics. I might do that. I mean, I'm going to be honest for that. So that's apart from the masters on New South Wales Uni and blah blah. Not to talk about myself, but yeah. So I should, and maybe I should think about doing that too. But I enjoy Sam's. It's in the ballot. It's so much that I'm here. I like that.
Well, we're about to get to Tauranga soon.
I pulled out on Tauranga too because I thought, I'm not going to be wasting my time and
there's 15 people standing for mayor.
Is it? My gosh, it's very provincial too, and it's very hard to convince them that hey, I am actually Eurasian with Portuguese blood. I do a little bit Portuguese mixed with Chinese from Malaysia, but I might lose heaps of votes there in Tauranga.
I mean, if you can find someone that can help us stay, that can sit there and put up with at least 4 people turning up, we need that. We've estimated our accommodation budget to be $1,600.
Wow, is it right? That's not too bad, I mean. Well, I mean, are you getting help from Jill or?
No. Jill doesn't want to spend any more money on it. It's effectively my contact base. I don't know that many people up there. Like the areas where, like Hamilton, I've got a contact base there, so it was so easy to sit there and do it. Like so, a Hamilton, it's in the Ballot show, can be done for less than $500. But Tauranga is a completely different kettle of fish. And like my friend who she used to live there, Kaz, but she now no longer lives there. And there is a bit of tension at her mum's place, so I just don't want to get involved in that one. But that would be her mum's place would be brilliant for it because there would be the room because it's the family home without the family living there anymore. But it's just one of those things that I just don't want to. I just don't want to make him think. I know there are tensions there, and I'm not involved in it, so I don't want to be involved. Because it's just one of those things, just what it is. It's just we've got to sit there and try and work it out. But we are looking at. We've got 4 people confirmed, but we probably need 6.
Oh, right.
And I mean, part of that is to actually have a little bit is to alternating roles. Because one thing I've learned, I did for the Hamilton East ward by-election, I did two 2-hour shows back-to-back presenting. Now, that takes a hell of a lot more out of you than 2-hour shows producing, 2-hour show presenting, which is what we did going up the country. So it definitely does make things a lot harder to do that. So that's something that I'm basically we've got to do it now. Nick will end up announce he's going to start learning to do presenting because of 2025 he'll become the community board show. But it's more of just the getting things lined up for it. So he's going to present 3 of the shows for Tauranga. But we basically, we've got to work it out. We've got 10 of them coming up. I know I'm presenting at least 7 of them. Probably, no, was it 7? Yeah. Well, 6 of them at least, but probably 7 of them.
I mean, we do have a very good crop of centrists and right candidates, some good ones on the left. So it's going to be a very crowded field. And
I can tell you one thing though: every person who has been sent an invite, we have not had the word declined.
No decline yet.
No one has said no. No one has said no. Every person who has replied has said yes. I've got to admit, not everyone's replied. We've only got about 30 out of something like 80-something candidates replied. And actually, that number gets a bit murky because of the number of people who both Steve for Councillor and for Mayor. So, yeah, but effectively, we're slowly getting people saying yes, but we are definitely going to have to look at the aggressive dual approach. So we're going to go through and effectively, again, possibly send out reminder emails.
McDonald's can do it. The warehouse stationery can do it. Did anyone catch David Seymour's attempt at just doing Jacinda's voice?
Just then.
No. When he started his speech, he was like trying to mimic what Jacinda Ardern sounds like.
Oh no, I missed that part.
It was about as bad as his attempt at a Canadian accent. It's worth missing. Right across the board, Karen Chua is
what? Jacinda Canadian?
No, he's not Canadian, but he was on an American television show where he put on a Canadian accent because he thought that it would make it easier for people to understand him.
Right.
It's a famous clip on YouTube. You can look it up. But I've dreams. We got to change.
He was mimicking that.
He was imitating a Canadian accent. To do it, and they made everything worse. It's like a kind of amnesia, Mr. Speaker. It's like I think he needs to. I think he needs to not do voice acting. On this planet,
I'll be back.
They've been here with us on Earth in recent times. Mr. Speaker, I look at Andrew Hogarth.
I'm just trying to find Blake's petition on Paul's Facebook page. So then, because Blake's put a bunch of comments up there, but I'll change the QR code to his petition. So I'm going to find the petition first.
Like courthouses, because even the ACT Party thinks that having some decent courthouses and getting people fast justice is something that the government should absolutely do and do well.
What about a courthouse on wheels, David Seymour?
Mobile courthouse, let's go.
That holds back
building all those new roads. Let's go for it.
Firearms.
Yeah.
They're very into cost cutting and reducing bureaucracy, and probably they would love AI, I guess. I mean, like.
Oh God!
I mean, Paul Goldsmith was suggesting to what's it called? So Paul Goldsmith suggested to what was it called? To remove what was it called? Jury trials.
We need to spend less
in some cases.
Tied up in
you know what? I would be all for replacing David Seymour with ChatGPT.
Just last week, that someone
just saying
was actually told by the Ministry of Education that they had to wash
time 15 minutes.
Not 59, not 61, 60 degrees centigrade. The fact
Yeah,
that is even
yeah, no,
tells
that
you
could
of
actually
the
be.
problems that we have
Imagine if
across our
everything, like
economy,
everyone got all
and
the
that is
hand
why
to
very
what
soon
David
the
Seymour
Ministry of
has said,
Regulation
put
funded
it
in this
into
budget will
online
commence the first
ChatGPT,
sector review
and just
into
like put
early
it
childhood education.
into a
Then we're going to
database
get
and
into
just like
animal and veterinary
basically put
products and
everything he
medicines being
said,
imported 90 years
into
behind
the
the rest of the
world
world.
at
Then we're going to do finance.
ChatGPT,
Then
so
we're
that
going
you
to
can
do
all sit
medical
down there and
licensing.
it can
We're
get
going to
you
deal
how to
with the
speak
red
like
tape and the
David Seymour.
regulation
Yeah,
that our
yeah.
Prime Minister calls the
You could.
foundations of an
You know, I mean,
obstruction
the
economy.
coalition's
We're
in favour of
sweeping them
AI
away and
technology. Why
replacing
not?
them with foundations for growth.
I wonder if he actually has run some of his
The other
speeches through
thing that you
ChatGPT.
need, besides
Yeah,
actually having some
yeah.
I
time
mean,
to do
I've got
some
to
work
admit, we did do that, for
as an
instance, the
economy,
ballot.
the budget will
Our
grow. And by the
invite
way,
emails were
Labor Party, right,
actually
we talk about work. They
sections of
actually
it were
forgot
ran
to
through
vote against the
ChatGPT.
white
Oh,
people's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
budget.
And
I
the
mean,
one thing it
yeah.
actually said
Budget
right
that is brought about
in
by
the
a cabinet of
emails,
20
and the
that
thing said,
has
don't
8
put anything
Māori members.
personalised
Kia
in
ora,
this,
Nicole McKee.
or
Kia
like
ora,
personal
Mr
or
Peters.
confidential
Kia ora,
information.
Shane. Kia ora, Casey Costello. Kia ora, Shane Reti.
Oh, is he saying hello to everyone now?
Our
Is he
cabinet,
run out
our
of things to
government
say already?
is
I
on to
think
Te
so.
Resimu Aho. Our government is 40% Māori. Twice as much as the rest.
What has that got to do with the budget, mate?
All right,
But
40%.
actually,
That's
there's
kind
a
of quite
bigger error in
equitable.
what Te
But
Pāti
is that
Māori
right?
I
say.
think someone's
You know
decided to start waffling.
It's true that our government's 40% Māori, but it shouldn't
What
matter.
is
It
the
shouldn't
Māori
matter if
demographic
you're
got to
black,
do with the
white, Cuban,
budget?
or Asian. It doesn't matter if your ancestors sailed here 1,000 years ago, like
Well,
some of
oh,
mine, or
my
just
God,
got
what is he
off
on
the
about?
plane at Auckland Airport this morning to begin
I
their
don't
journey
know.
as New Zealanders.
You can
in the
tell I'm not a
21st
fan of David
century.
Seymour,
We
but
are
it's
all
just
New
like,
I
oh,
think he's
Mr.
using a
Speaker,
thing
he's
called
talking about productivity growth, and I
filibustering.
just noticed
yeah,
the
this is
Māori bloody
filibustering.
seats, and
Yep.
it got me thinking
I
about
mean,
it.
he could just
Let me
repeat the
come back
speech,
onto
but
the
now he's
topic.
talking about
The second
racial
thing that you
politics.
need, no matter what your ethnic
Like,
background
We'll put a
is
surely,
ticker. We'll put a ticker
infrastructure.
on the
A fighter
filibuster.
that can do
I mean, he
5
could talk
jobs
about
in a
charter
day
schools, he
is
could
more
talk about
productive than
roads, he
one
could
that
talk
does
about,
3
he's
jobs and
gone to
spends a
this
whole lot of
subject, so
time
it's just
sitting
like, oh,
in
come on, mate.
traffic. A factory that breaks down and gets the repair van out there so the
Okay,
workers
so
can
we've
keep
got a new
working
ticker
part
about to
time
appear on
is
the
a lot
screen
more
now.
productive than one that has to wait a day for the parts to arrive. A tourism industry where people can easily drive
It's just a
from
good way of
Auckland
putting
to the
it,
Bay
you know.
Islands to enjoy the wonderful,
And
beautiful
maybe we need to have that pop
is
on
more
its
productive
ballot
than
when
one
someone's
where people
taking a
wonder,
minute to
is
answer
this
a question but
actually
say
so
nothing.
good?
Say
Or have we
just
got
put on
this?
there
Mr. Speaker,
filibustering.
that is why we need
Yeah, it's
public-private
like,
partnerships.
He's talking
We need
about
more
everyone
foreign
being equal
investment,
under
which
the
I'm
rule of
proud to be
law,
leading
right,
as the
guys?
Associate
So
Minister
isn't
of
that our
Finance. And we
QBY
need
of
city
law?
and regional
Well, it
Like,
depends what you want to call him,
government
equal and rule of
with
law. It
an
seems to
investment
be
of around
equal
$19
only in
billion of capital in
equal
this
in
year's
positive
budget,
stats, but want to keep the
especially that led
unequalness
by
in
Simeon
negatives.
Brown, our Transport
okay,
Minister.
but
well,
we all
Mr.
don't
Speaker,
start with the
there's
same,
another thing that you need
we don't
besides a
start with
good
all the same
regulatory
parents, right?
environment
I
and
mean, some people
infrastructure.
like
There's
born rich or,
education, and this
born
budget
with a
is
silver
filled
spoon
with it.
like
For
Trump,
one
and
thing,
well,
we
the father was
have
already
a
a billionaire
curriculum
before he
filled
became
with
Trump,
valuable
yeah,
the
knowledge
Trump
that
people.
one
But jokes
generation
aside,
will
but
pass
but
to
I
the
yeah,
wonder if
next.
we
so
could
It
sit there and
motivates today that New Zealand
have this
children in
actually
the
put
English
on
curriculum
see
are
if this can
going to
make on the
read
media if
some
if we're being watched.
Shakespeare.
The
And
filibuster.
witty
And
Iggy
just see
Leonard.
that might
Who
become
are these
like a
people?
gift that ends
Well,
up like
soon
popping up
everyone
on
will
like
actually
BHN or
know
something
because we're
like
going to
that.
teach
Just
our
goes like that.
culture and
Well,
our
here's the
values
budget
as a
speech
country,
today, and then
pursue
here's what it's in
academic
the ballot that
excellence.
the
In
order
fact,
paper did,
I can
the
tell you, Mr.
filibuster.
Speaker, they want
And
to
why
just,
even teach something in
during
the
a
curriculum
speech when
called
you
grammar.
could use that to
That is
promote
what's going to be in the
his party
curriculum
policies,
so that
right?
the
I
next
mean,
generation
like he
actually...
could
I
talk
just
about the
saw
good
Shannon
policies they
Helmer, the
have,
former
like
member
that
for
that
Northcote,
gun
looking
law
really
thing, which I
confused.
think
It's
yeah, we can
I
G-R-A-M-A-R.
believe that needs. I believe that actually could do very, very well. The gun law. So I'm very keen to see how that actually goes.
The automatic ones in the end. I think that we should get rid of that because You don't need to let a wild boar, right? You are a hunter, you can just use a rifle, but that is more for the enthusiasts who can buy 50 expensive guns and show off to the mates. But you're talking about gang people stealing those guns, and my gosh, this kind of assault rifles are dangerous in the hands of gangs. I mean, I see it from the security perspective. So we don't need this kind of weapons. We just need the usual ones. So that law is pretty good. I think like acting, they could be talking about this thing instead of the filibustering thing that you guys are saying that he's trying to do, right? That he could talk about how extol the virtues of the gun law thing, where now they have to go through that very rigid process before they can even think of getting an assault rifle, which has no justification to splatter the wild boar and then meet your friend or next to you. So I mean, that's the only thing I could think of where the justification is a wild boar charging at you. But you'd probably be far away with shooting it with a rifle or whatever, rather than Sorry, I know you're a vegan. Apologize for that, but I'm talking about the gun law thing. That was pretty good by ACT. Limit the use of this dangerous assault rifles or automatic whatever.
Should we change it to this?
Rights and universal human dignity and the right
Just
to
a
make a
moment.
difference in their own life. The way they would like to be.
Yeah, I mean, all I gotta say to David Seymour, it's a great thing that equality is guaranteed under the current treaty and treaty principles.
So I'm doing it already, guys. I mean, we are like more than fair to our treaty partners. Yeah, I mean, 40% of Maori in the parliament is pretty fair. I mean, they are like 20%.
He's finished!
Oh, clap for him finishing. Yes, he's done. He's done.
Oh.
Thank God he's done. Okay.
Let's turn up the volume to hear Jerry.
I call on the Right Honourable Deputy Prime Minister Winston Peters.
Mr. Speaker, today our country has just changed gears from reverse and backwards to forwards and progress. We wish in New Zealand First to begin by recognising the work of the Minister of Finance and her 3 associate ministers, because preparing a budget in an economic crisis is an extraordinarily difficult undertaking which most people don't understand in this House, let alone in the country. A difficult undertaking when on forecast growth charts, the IMF last year had us, of the 159 countries they measured in terms of GDP growth, they had us 158. Now that should have been a screaming disaster out there in the mainstream media, but no, they seem to be totally oblivious to these facts. And that's, by comparison, of course, the lowest this country has ever been since there have been measurements. These ministers faced a tsunami of debt, and so does the government as a consequence. An economy at serious risk, confronting international protectionism with the tax take seriously down. Having to confront major structural failure, and New Zealanders voting with their feet, leaving our shores in a mass Old Testament exodus of people. That's what we faced, and the responsibility for that lies on that side of the House. Now, look, turning to one's own portfolio.
It's a both sides issue.
For foreign affairs, we can only advance the coalition government's ambition to improve the security and prosperity of New Zealanders through an active, well-resourced foreign policy. To that end, Budget 24 invests nearly $60 million in capital and operational funding for essential diplomatic infrastructure to support key international relationships, most particularly in our Pacific neighbourhood. It is a start, a first step, Ministers of Finance. While over the next several months, MFAT will be benchmarking its diplomatic reach against countries we compare ourselves with in size and ambition, as New Zealand more effectively advances their economic and security interests internationally. And we will never get the outcomes in trade that we want unless we put a whole lot of firepower into the field, and I'm certain that that's what we're going to do. Now, having said that, I observed the response
put
from the
firepower into the economy.
leader of the Labour
Whoa,
Party,
that's pretty ambitious.
Chris
Damn.
Hipkins. And if anybody's in at night not being able to get to bed, replay that speech. Because it was going to put Mogadon
I'm going to
totally
have
out
to
of business.
replay this speech, that's for sure.
And after
It's not
5
wrong.
minutes, he ran out of puff. It was noticeable. You know, you have to really look at that and say to yourself, I am psychologically studying what's going on over there, what's happening over there.
So what did I miss?
And their heads were down. Suddenly they were
putting
dealing with a
firepower into the
tsunami of
economy,
correspondence
apparently, is what he
that
wants to
turned up
do.
this afternoon just before the budget turned up. All
I'm
of
not
them
quite sure what he means by
looking
that.
downwards, not exuding confidence at all.
Wasn't it going
Dejected,
under the rocks
forlorn,
when he
guilty,
wasn't in government?
inwardly repentant, but
Isn't it
outwardly
always he probably
mildly
coming on the rocks
defiant.
when he's not in government?
It doesn't look like a party's going to be back in
Oh,
3
no.
years, does it? Or for that matter, 6 years. Because I tell you why, it hasn't got a leader. No, we haven't. Oh, and by the way, that member shouted out through the whole time, and I thought to myself, gee, there's not many people can eat a banana sideways, but you could. Unbelievable.
Okay, that's a witty
In
comment.
4.5
from
minutes,
Winston.
he ran
I'll
out
give
of
him that
puff.
W.
He wrote
Pretty good.
his no confidence motion.
Winston has
Not
got
when he
some
saw the
bangers.
budget today, but he obviously wrote it yesterday. Because he got up and gave a stereotype speech and went straight downhill. He lamented further borrowing that Labor caused. There were crocodile tears for the elderly, having done nothing to advance the super gold card in the time they had it. And you know, he
Has National proposed to do anything with
talked
the super
about-
gold card?
as a former minister
Not sure about
of education, he
but the
said,
one community
I can
payment's
tell
still
you.
there.
Now, I thought,
Right.
what a brilliant opening line. As a former minister of education, I can tell you, what we could tell us about was how the education standards deteriorated so rapidly under that sort of thinking. And then he referenced the cost of climate change when, on building climate change resilience, they had done so little. And then, it's an extraordinary thing here.
Isn't it quite
And I
interesting
hope the
the fact
mainstream
that
media
he,
picked this up
behind
if they're still
Winston,
alive.
all he has got in his
But he mentioned
shot effectively
the
is
failed to take
4
down
other
theory
men.
of economics.
Yeah, I
Now,
mean,
that was
Shane
fascinating.
Jones is giggling over there like a little
Because you're sitting
schoolgirl.
in
I'm not quite
London,
sure what that's
and you
about.
mentioned 40
But,
years ago
you know,
about
And I mean, lucky
Trickle down
Andy's
theory
hidden
of
behind the
economics.
sign
And the
language
40 years
person.
ago, I forgot to say, it was Labour who brought it in.
You know, or the sarcastic
March
term that can be on there,
1984.
Uncle Andy,
Haven't these
but
people
that's
got a memory
because
or conscience?
one of my college friends,
And then within 7 minutes ago,
his uncle is
took
Andy
all 30
Foster.
minutes to say
Oh,
something
I
else,
think
but
Nicola's
7
just
minutes
come back
ago,
from a media
he told
stand-up.
New Zealanders
yeah, I mean,
that he
I've
was
got a
listening
friend
to them.
whose uncle is Uncle Winnie.
God.
You know,
I'm not going to
American
bash
rappers
Uncle
chanting
Winnie,
songs.
and
It
I
wasn't
love
me,
his
it wasn't
witty
me.
comebacks. I will give him that. I think he's got some of the
Let's be
best
modern,
comebacks in the
right?
game.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Does Uncle Winnie have a daughter called Brie?
No, it's not.
I wouldn't know. Sorry.
It's not a country music.
Okay,
It's
no,
rap.
because Winston Peters' daughter is called Brie Peters, and she appeared on Shortland Street.
Oh, really?
Yes.
No, I mentioned the background of the budget in my first sentence. I mentioned the foreign affairs part of that
Now,
budget
one
in
thing,
my second
do you
page.
believe
Now, with
Winston
respect,
Peters
if you
will
want to learn
end up
something,
like being
you've
like
got to
Winston
listen.
Churchill?
Look, we are sick and tired of
In
failed
there forever.
university student union.
If New Zealand was invaded,
They
maybe.
couldn't run the school, university school.
Well,
town.
because Winston
They
Churchill,
get up here, they've
Ministry
never
of Foreign
ever spent
Affairs
any money at
report
all.
is saying
And they're
2030
spending
there could
billions
be
of
a
dollars
major
and saying
war in
that they can do
the
it. No, they can't.
Asia Pacific,
Why,
and
the last president ran it.
yes,
He's
which
heading off, having
democracy
run
is
the
the
country into
most
massive debt.
undefended.
He's going to a university with massive
You
debt.
took away our fighter jets in 1999 when Henry Clark came to power.
Oh, they mentioned tobacco.
You don't have any
taxes.
protection in the
Tobacco
skies.
taxes
We were
went
sitting
up
in
in December last
Australia.
year.
Singapore and
Pay
India
attention.
engaged in this
And ladies and
major
gentlemen,
Asia
then there
Pacific
became,
war, right?
the next speaker
Currently
was
protected not by
Martin
me, but
Davidson,
2023 Ministry
speak a
for
bit of
Defense
French,
report. So
Sans Swarbuck.
that could be, we could be
Sans
the
means without.
Achilles heel, mates.
Usually,
We are undefended,
that
and
party
people
has
love our
coalitions, so they get
agriculture, our
permanent seats.
beef,
So
our milk,
something's
and
going a little wrong over there.
we could be the one that they are after. I
Something's
mean,
happening
coming
over
in from
there.
behind, it's
Sans
more
Swarbuck, not
historic,
tendencies this time.
my area of
No,
field, I guess.
Martimer.
Well, you see, yeah, This is something that we have to be serious about, unfortunately, because if it happens, we are going to just have wire 8 to protect
Because
ourselves.
we speak English in this country.
That is if our
A language that came
allies
from a small
Australia
village in
and
Germany
Singapore
all those
don't have the
centuries ago.
guts to protect us because they are being
And it's the
used
language
to
of commerce worldwide.
defend that Asia Pacific
Now back
country
to
that's
the
going to attack
Greens.
that free market democratic
Facing
country. So,
54 years, my friend.
What game do you
Never,
think Sydney Brown
never
playing on a cell phone?
make it a
Right?
cabinet.
When you saw a shot,
54
Sydney
years of
Brown was
never
like
being in
very deep into a
How
cell
can you
phone.
belong to a movement? You
Oh,
look like a nice guy.
okay.
I don't know, but it looks like everyone's enjoying Winston. I was going to say Winston Churchill. Winston Peters stand-up comedy routine.
And then 2029 will be.
Now he's trying to cook the
57
Greens.
No, you're not worried about it, I know. But some of us came here to do a job.
So do we grab the do we grab this
I'll
tool
change my professional
and
name
then,
down in Parliament.
and then
Maybe
just
they're gonna talk with
change
you.
the
No,
name
Some of us
to
here on a mission. We have to save our country. We're out to make it one of the greatest countries in the world again, which we once were.
Oh, come on, please, Winston, don't start with the American rhetoric.
Here's the point. From the Greens, you heard.
Can we not do MAGA in New Zealand, please? No, God, no, please.
This utopian world.
You've got to give him credit about his oratory and rhetoric. Like,
so do we put that back on the screen and change it for Winston?
you might hear him saying of Winston Churchill, like, never have so many, so much is so few, like with that British accent. Never have so many, or so much is so
Tell me what
few.
your economics is.
Or something like that.
And it's communist.
Should we
Because
give
when you give the
Charles a ring
then nobody can protest
and
for you
ask
saying it
them
because
to give
that's straight from the
Winston
book
Peters
itself.
a duke them
Or do a bit
in
of
the
reading
same
when
way
you come next time.
that Winston Churchill
Then
was
he ended up race to
offered
the bottom
a
with
duke
the
them?
Te Pāti Māori.
We'll
All
fight in the
complaints
futures.
she
We'll
did,
fight in
no answers.
Yeah,
no
because
solutions.
Winston
Descended straight
Churchill
from
was
the absurd
offered
to the
the
ridiculous.
dukedom, including the second time he was
These
offered
green
a
MPs, of
dukedom,
course,
it was to
are
be
the
the Duke
highest
of
aviation
London
taxpayer-paid cost
Duke of
payers
London.
of
Oh, God.
all of Parliament.
as a retirement
These
gift
green MPs
from
spend more
Parliament
time on aeroplanes than
from
all
being
the
Prime
rest of us
Minister,
that
and
did
he
the
turned
cost.
it down.
About 4 times my party's cost. Where are they
He
flying
turned it
to?
down because he
What
still
are
wouldn't
they
stand
doing?
politics.
Because they never have a meeting. They never have a public meeting. No,
I'm just trying to. I'm just trying to follow what Winston is saying over here.
This is going to be under grave endangerment, and the media rush off and put them on there.
I just wonder if Te Pāti Māori are going to turn up and do a
They never
speech.
ever do anything out there. They have no constituency officers. I see them.
That would be a welcome
what's her
relief
name?
at this point.
Someone from up north, Willow Jean Prime, wishes to defend them. Because I know why Willow would.
I can't
say
help
that,
but
'cause
laugh when he
that's what Willow
talks, though.
doesn't do
He is
either.
funny. Winston
When
is
was the time
funny.
Willow ever hit the ground hard and ran around the
But he'll be one of those people you don't quite want to call he doesn't want you to call him a comedian because he'll actually take offence by that. Like in the same way that John McDonnell takes offence to people calling him a comedian when he stands for office. Because he considers himself a very serious candidate.
Winston Churchill said there's
Well,
nothing government can
maybe
give
he
you
should tell less
that it
jokes.
hasn't taken from you.
Exactly what we're talking about. We must have a premonition, guys.
No, there's nothing government can give you that it hasn't taken from you in the first place. And he
Well, I
also
mean, that
said,
was where Andy
I
was
condemn
born.
that for a nation to try to tax itself into
Andy
prosperity.
Foster was born in the
It's
UK.
like a man standing in a bucket and trying to lift himself
I'm trying to
up by
think. I
the
think he's
handle.
been in New Zealand for a
And
very
that's
long
all
time,
you
though.
heard
He
from
went
over
to
today.
school over here.
Unbelievable.
But yeah, Andy Foster
You know,
is
2/3
originally
of our
from the
new spending
UK.
goes
Yep.
to health, education, and law and order. That's our decisive reply to the fear-mongering and scaremongering led by that crowd over there. 2/3 of our new spending goes to health, education, and law and order.
Oh, we'll take off
And
filibuster
to the
now. We'll
front
carry some
line,
bags.
Not the
He's
bloated
got
bureaucratic
numbers
backline.
now. Right, let's go.
Or the 17,000 new ones they got when they were there with no productivity issues to argue for in their favour at all. Tax relief in budget 224 leaves $3.7 billion in taxpayers' pocket. Minister, it's not tax savings here. We're just not taking the money out of their pocket they own in the first place. Right?
Wow.
The money with them, it's theirs, and theirs to keep. You know
That's a
something?
bit of a
Core
stretch,
ground
mate.
Debt, what we New Zealanders owe had gone under Labor and the Greens from 20% of GDP to 43% of GDP.
What?
I'm repeating what the Minister of Finance has said, because this is the staggering environment we're in. Trying to get by with a degraded economic circumstances,
20%.
board of economic
Okay, COVID was a thing.
extreme, and massive PR boastfulness.
I don't know if it
paid
would
for by the
increase
taxpayers
the
of this country
GDP
on the
that
way
much,
through.
debt to GDP ratio that
Budget
much, but
2024
yeah,
invest
I'd have to look into that
1.2
one.
billion over 3 years in the once provincial growth fund.
Well,
but
it's
now
not all
regional
COVID. I mean,
infrastructure
I mean, like, I was living in the inner city
changed by the
of
Labor
right,
Party. I didn't want to own up
and
to
you
the
won't
only thing
believe
ever
it,
had
like,
success
this
around them was the provincial growth.
development thing on the road. I think it's because of that.
Now, regional projects for economic growth,
It's like 3
flood
years,
protection,
and you see the same
climate
fences like a
mitigation, which they
refugee
never did,
fence, and
but which
right
we will
going
do,
up Leslie
and
Street
resilience
over
projects are what
Street,
are
right?
our priorities.
And there was these 4 or
You know,
5
we all have our
very
view
good
on the
cafes, not for
previous
the upper
government's
class, or
economic
blocks and
performance.
blocks that closed,
Many of these views,
losing heaps of
rightly
jobs
so,
and
are
everything, and
in
they're
this house not
promising
neutral.
like 70 grand. So,
But there is a view held recently
kind
by
goes
hundreds
down
of
one more,
thousands
but
of
it's
New
so
Zealanders,
popular with
and their
tourists.
view is
I mean, when the tourists come to inner city
because
Auckland and they
recently
say, hey, where's the
hundreds
city
of
of
thousands
skills?
over the
And they
last
see
3
all
years
this
have left or fled
building
this country
projects. Well, not
under
building
a Labor
projects,
government.
sorry, not building, but they're building
That's
on
the
the,
most
trying to do something on
blistering
the roads.
commentary
And
of
nothing's
how
being
bad
done
they
now. I
were.
mean, you see the fences up every day, and they've been there for
Tell us about the
3
budget,
years.
he said.
4 years, and another 3 years. So, you know, and then that's people living there.
I've got some statistics here.
That's the part
Our
that we're
central
regressing
government
right
debt
now.
actually increased
Now,
under
today
the last
the Maori
national
Party-
government, and
Today
then
the
started to
Maori-
decrease.
Today, the Maori Party
Yeah, it
organised
was at
protest in Parliament
51%.
forecourt,
Oh.
and then
I
didn't
think it's
even
gone up
turn
to
up to this
43,
house
right, in the
to
last
find
6
out what
years.
was in the budget.
Yeah, it's a very interesting pattern.
Unprecedented, and if you're the defender, they're stuffed. If you're the
Who was in
protector, you're the
power in
advocate, you're the
2010?
defender, they've got a
John
open
Key.
Hades.
It increased under John Key, our debt to GDP ratio.
But they couldn't
Yeah, it was
bother
one of the
turn up.
biggest increases in history as well, probably since Muldoon.
Yeah.
Since
Shit. Winston needs to lay off the smokes, I think.
And you are not the youngest member of Parliament. You never were. Dobby Pike here was. Let me inform you, Maori people, that Dobby Pike here
You're young
was
enough.
90 years of age. So stop showing off. Stop showing
You need to be
off.
younger.
So I think we know who's walked in the chamber.
Dereliction of duty.
Yeah.
Can I say,
I would love to go to the pub with Winston Peters. He would be
I'm
fantastic to have a
pleased you're
drink
here
with.
because you make me look young.
I don't know if he would want to have a drink with a Green Party member, but I'm open to having a drink with him.
Take your cowboy hat off. You make me look young.
Yeah, well, put it this way, I think he'll make a better person to have a drink with than some other people.
That is quite
Yeah, I mean, he
clear
can
and
roast me all day if he wants.
person
So
said
I'm
this.
here for the
It is
laugh.
Kiwi-centred because significant
Yeah.
decisions have been made.
Maybe you need to make an appointment with him to meet at the backbencher.
As a baseline to a
You
nation.
may go all jolly and sing a song like, I'd like to have a beer with Winston. I'd like to have a beer with Winston.
Is in moving forward.
Drink and drink and
That is a
never
quote
get
from John
one.
Thomas
Drink it down and
President of the Maori
contrite.
Party.
And the atmosphere is great. I think it'd be good for that song, you know. I'd like
And
to
here's
have
another
a
quote
beer
from someone
with
back
Winston.
then that is
and
insightful
Winston
and
be
honest.
like- They can use Sam inside in
Quotes,
the
the
next
rise of the
song.
Maori Party is
Pretty
unfortunate
good
and
song, that
frustrating.
one, across the date,
It is not
but,
Maori.
yeah.
Maori is a generic term.
I should catch up
The
with
group
some
of
beers
people
with
who
you guys
support the
when they
rise of
come
the
up.
Maori Party are actually tribal fundamentalists, unquotes. That is a quote from John
They must
Thomas
give them all 20-minute
current president
speeches
of
to
the Maori Party.
filibuster.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they're starting to feel like. These speeches now feel like they're filibusters,
Yeah, it
not
is.
actual substance.
Today,
Yep.
on budget day, quotes the problem with the party.
The
Maori
interesting
that
part is,
it is led
even
by a
if
bunch of
you've
people
ever
who
seen
have done
Winston wear a pair of glasses,
extraordinarily well out of
Yeah, I think it would
protest
look cool
activism.
that a bit
So
of
they can tell their
that
children
Brian
why
fellow,
they
Brian
should vote
Thomas
against
guy.
things. Why
This,
they should march against
tribal
things, and why they should
fundamentalist.
dislike
What
others,
does he
end of
mean by
quotes.
that? Tribal
That's a
fundamentalist.
quote from John Tamahere, current president of the party
Well,
Maori.
so is he roasting
in
the Māori Party now?
2005, and
Oh, right,
screaming
right.
out like you don't do back in the marae in the Taranaki won't help you now. Nor that hat. And another very factual and reflective quote as well back then. It is quite clear the Maori Party is built around New Age educationalists, reconstructionists in terms of history, and the academics and the new elite around the Treaty of White
New Age Maori.
books. There is no
Sorry, I had to
place
laugh
and no
at that
space
one. Okay.
in this country for separatists.
Well, it's kind of a good political move to appeal to his constituency of voters, right, guys? I mean, he's aiming for his flock and those who share that.
Here we go. Yes, we are going.
I mean, if you've watched the River of Freedom, apparently he's still Winston.
Does not
What's that one? I've seen it a few times in the newspapers, like River of Freedom.
I'll say it again.
They accidentally put him, said he had a knighthood, which he doesn't because you see the Right Honourable, you don't see Sir Winston. Which is actually interesting, the fact that the Right Honourable term is used, considering the Right Honourable concept is a hangover from the Privy Council. Part of me thinking, like, should I text Andy Foster and say, hey, enjoy watching on there, but does it get a bit boring that you have to keep looking at Winston Peters because you're on camera?
From where you come from, you listen to your elders, okay?
Because I do have Andy's phone number.
Show that you might understand where you
might be. Isn't it interesting how I have all these MPs' phone numbers?
Here we go again. It's the last insightful quote.
This was before Andy became an MP. That was when he was the mayor. I had his phone number.
And believe
oh, really? Okay.
Would get special rights.
Yeah, well, remember, he was the mayor of Wellington for 3 years.
Of the Party Maori.
Who?
Ladies and gentlemen.
Andy Foster. The person who said, was it the one behind the sign language person?
Sometimes 2 or 3 jobs a day.
He's the former mayor of Wellington.
Yeah, that's right.
Alongside all other New Zealanders.
Yeah, it was an interesting election. How he ended up losing the mayoral chains. Yeah, that was one where I think the media tried to make it a Paul versus Andy race and ended up being forced to cover Tory, and it went completely haywire.
Example of hypocrisy that's palpable, profound, precise, predictable, preferential, punitive, and pathetic.
All right, whoa.
Thank you.
That was kind of like an old man shouts at cloud moments, but you know, it was entertaining.
Point of order, Raul Waititi.
We have 20 minutes.
There we
I'm
go.
asking to take leave from the House for a split
Oh, I
court with
love the
Party
top
Māori
hat.
today.
Top hat game is on point.
Yeah, well. You look, just so the House is aware, parliamentary practice 1942, I think, makes it possible for that action to be allowed. Therefore, we expect 2 10-minute calls. Thank you. Rauri Waititi. Oh, sorry. Hannah Rauri Waipika.
Oh!
Man, that fashion game is on point. I love that fashion.
I find it very interesting that one person in this parliament is so triggered. So triggered.
Well, that's one way to
by
put
me.
it.
So intimidated.
Yes.
Of me.
Yes.
Not once did I mention, not once did I say anything over here. I sat. So if we want to go there, let's go there. No mai ki tō mātou nei whare, no mai ki tōku nei marae, haere ki te kōrero atu ki oku nei kaumātua, haere ki te kōrero ki oku nei ruruhi korei heke o ngā tirangi, no ngā hauē whao te motu, hara mai ki te kōrero, maumau tō toto Māori, maumau tō toto Māori, maumau tō toto Māori.
who's probably going to
He's like,
oh,
Mr. Winston
Yeah, he
Peters would
is
be
the
so
senator.
proud of. Who's this young Māori wahine from Rahui Pōkeka, one of the youngest members of Parliament, who I say humbly, one of. Engari, hiaha. I'm not intimidated. I've got no chips on my shoulder.
I think Shay Jones is leaving.
And I find it.
Sorry.
I find it. Sorry, Mr. Speaker.
I don't want to stand. That would be inappropriate. But address the House, not a single member.
Thank you. E whakahihi ana a wini tana iau, nā runga anō I te mea, koia. He was one of the first
Just address him to Reo Māori. It's not like the Speaker will
signatures
understand
actually
anyways.
on Te Pitihana Reo Māori, tabled by my namesake Hana Te Himara here at Parliament. So I think he's actually quite proud. He thinks, chair, neat, all right. He was once on the right side. Engari, heia hatera, heia, kai konei au ki te waha I ngā kōrero mo te Pāti Māori, I te atanei, heia rā kōrero, I tāmitia kia mātou, ngā uri o te kohanga reo, ngā uri, o tātou te iwi Māori. E tu ana hau ki te waha I ngā kōrero o te Pāti Māori nei, ka tuatahi ake ngā kōrero ki tō mātou nei kingi, a kingi tu heitia, ko te tau te whirowhiro te tuawhitu, me tōna whare kāhui ariki, rire hau, pai mārire. Ko te kupu tuatahi, I tēnei pō, ko te reo whakamiha, ko te reo pōkiri ki tō mātou nei,
Do the best you can, mate.
iwi, te iwi Māori I kōkiri hia I ngā tiriti I te rangi tonu nei. Ka nui rā te mihi I a tātou te Pāti Māori I takahi nei ki runga o Pōneke. For some it was budget day, but for the rest of us it was activation day. I'm not here to talk about the budget because what budget? There's nothing in it for us. The word Māori is not even mentioned once in this budget within health, education and police. So I'm going to turn to the kōrero that I gave today, which I think is more significant than this kaupapa here today with our people and te kohanga reo. In 1840, our tūpuna signed Te Tiriti o Waitangi, which asserted our rights as tangata whenua in our country. In the past 7 months, I have witnessed nearly every single right be stripped away from us, from our reo, from our health, to our taiao, to our justice system, to Māori wards, housing, and I have never been more triggered or traumatised than last week than when this government made a clear attack on the rights of our babies in mokopuna through whakapapa in Section 7AA. This government is trying to create another stolen generation and we won't stand for it. Christopher Luxon, Winston, Seymour, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Can you feel us?
I don't know about that
How
one.
extraordinary is it that kura and kohanga reo
amazing
have
that
only
our
been
views
funded
start
less than
when they-
1%
when she
over the
started
last decade
speaking.
by successive governments?
She's cooking.
Despite this approach,
She's a
kura
good speaker.
kaupapa continues to be amongst the highest performing educational systems in the country. Our tamariki and mokopuna are worth more than 1%. This House once talked about the extinction of Māori. In 1856, Dr. Featherston said, "We must soften the polo of the dying Māori race." In my maiden speech, I said, "We are here." Today, the wave spoke for itself. Now, the government has underestimated this wave. Within my debates throughout the campaign election, I said the kohanga reo generation is here. And there's a huge wave of us coming through.
I hate to be that person.
Te Kahui Raronga shows us that we are growing and we are young. And this wave will not die out. For some of us that sit across who are not growing young and who are not of this wave. Tēnei te ngaru nui, te ngaru roa o te ao Māori, te haramai nei. Today I leave this message with you. Kua roa nei tātou e huri tuarana ki te moana nui ākiwa. For a long time, we have turned our backs to the moana. Me huri te anga o te kakau o te hoi, me aro ngā mata, ngā whatu ki te moana nui ākiwa. This fight isn't just our fight, it's everyone's fight. It's not French Polynesia, it's Tahiti. It's not the United States of America, it's Hawaii. It's not New Caledonia, it's Kanaki. We must move our waves together so that we embody our Hawaii hou. We are the biggest embodiment of water on this planet. Tātou te moana nui a kiwa. There is nothing to fear and
you get
lose
that
from this
feeling
wave,
when you get
but
like an
everything to
assignment
gain.
from your university, but you
This
completely
wave welcomes every
misinterpret
generation
what
and
the,
every race.
what the assignment prompt was.
Kaore anō kua kite
But you end up writing a banger of an assignment, but it's just not about the subject that the assignment asked you to write about.
But I have seen
that's what the speech feels like.
Yeah, I agree actually.
And I mean that with all due respect as well.
Yeah, like I like the speech you say, but you are right.
Yeah,
it feels a bit off topic.
Yes. It's like David Seymour went down this route as well, and it's like, it's budget day.
These are the waves of
Please.
our
Yeah.
responsibility. Our job is to unleash the floodgates, remove the barricades that stop us. We are moving, and we are moving strong. A kuia and koro. This just
I have to say
what has just happened before.
a good hidden gem. This.
A kuia and koro will
Good
always
speech,
hold
but it's
their
just not.
grandchild's
It's just
hand
not on
and move
topic,
them
unfortunately.
I wonder who the next call's going to be. Is it going to be Rawani, or is it going to be someone else within the party?
Oh, it might be Chris Bishop.
To move them into an Aotearoa hau. We need to make
I
sure
think someone
that
in
we
the
are
camera
bringing
operating room sat there and hit the wrong key just then.
our with us in places that were unimaginable.
Is he the only one from National
That were
Left?
unimaginable in
I
their
think
times.
I think they've got the minimum number of people they have to have in the house during the debate.
Right, okay, yeah.
Yeah, because there is a minimum number. Because I know Greg O'Connor told me when the banning of gay conversion and therapy bill was going through Parliament. He was rostered on to sit in Parliament. The whole thing.
Not one fault, not one arrest, not one hiccup.
And so, yeah, there are rules around like who has to sit in the house because each party's got to have someone in there. And I do know that you have to have, if your party has more than 5 people, you have to have a whip in the house at all times.
Yeah.
Some may look at this and think, what the hell is this girl on about? But I'm going to tell you this. I know who I am, I know where I've come from, and I know where I'm going. And I know that might be intimidating to some people.
The thing is, I feel she's the next time-wise Manaia Mahuta.
I'm telling you,
she's probably going to be in Parliament for 30 years.
Yeah, she's a good speaker. She's good.
Yeah, I think she might be Te Pāti Māori Special Turakati Sullivan. Okay.
Mr. Speaker.
Hey, Julian Jr. still there.
Rawani Waititi. Kia ora, and it is my absolute privilege to
I
follow
love his fashion, by the way. 10 out of 10 for the drip.
Wonderful words.
It was like no tie, blank shirt.
The youngest
love
Māori wahine who have
If I ever
embraced
enter
the
Parliament,
chambers.
that's how I want to rock up.
Rafiti Clark.
Man, love the hat, love the jacket.
And what a wonderful kōrero we've heard. This is where the future is. This is what this budget should be focused on. And it does not. What this budget tells us
Yes, talk about the
is
budget.
that
Let's do it.
Māori don't matter. That we signed to Tiritia Waitangi, but we continuously allow this House to assume that it has sovereignty and absolute superiority over Māori. Article 1 was the establishment of kāwanatanga over your own people. Article 2 was the protection of the pre-existing rights of tangata whenua to their lands, to their homes, to their taonga. Today, we made a declaration in the name of our mokopuna that we would no longer allow the assumption of this Parliament to have superiority or sovereignty over te iwi Māori.
But
now let's look at a kāwanatanga space.
Treaty of Waitangi thing.
We now make up 1 million people.
Is like
1 in 5 people here in
given
Aotearoa are Māori.
sovereignty over. The tribal leaders agreed to give.
You get that, Matt Ducey?
Oh,
Hanana
you're
the
yeah. Yeah, so about that.
Yeah.
That's the English version of the treaty. There were two versions. The Te Tiriti
Is
gave
that right?
Māori
I mean,
sovereignty over themselves.
really? But how
So
did
the
this Maori version materialize after all these years? Just came out of the blue, or some?
No. The Māori version was the one that the majority of Ariki signed, including my own ancestor, which granted self-governance.
Then Tiwi Māori should
Self-governance within the tribes, within the just like the American Indians, the Native American Indians in that area, that is in their tribal lands, right? So
it is kind of similar to that, yeah.
But they're not over the whole of New Zealand. I mean, right? Because that's like their tribal area, like your Ngati, we respect. That's your land area. So,
we're all taxpayers.
but the government has given lots of compensation, right? In fact, the national ones are the ones that always give compensation back to the Maori. And every government, they've given money back, like 300 million, and Moana 300
Oh, that's
million.
of the many treaty settlement bills, but I mean, he's pretty much basically, since the mid-80s, been a bipartisan approach to treaty settlement.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
isn't that kind of being fair and redress to...
Hey, let's look at Matatini. You're patting yourselves on the back for that.
But the budget actually gives to low income and middle income, right? So Maori comprise, let's say, very high numbers in terms of percentage. So they're going to be getting debts, isn't it? So how did this budget become kind of, I shouldn't use the word twisted, but defined as if it's anti-Maori? When 40% of the MPs are the Maori blood. Like 20 years ago, there was only like 1 or 2.
Well, I mean, it took to 1949 till they got a female Māori into Parliament. It took until 1972 before they had a female Māori cabinet minister. Who, Iriraka Ratana was the first female Māori MP, and the second female Māori MP was Feta Turkatli Sullivan.
And the one from the national side, right?
Both of them were Labour MPs.
Oh, Labour, yeah.
Was Sunata Apriana, I think, was a national MP. Well, he was originally part of Reform. Was it Reform or United?
To think you can.
Yeah, he ended up in the National Party, but I mean,
think you can rehabilitate us?
That was the party that merged together.
To continue to
you're talking about Apirana Ngata?
Yes, that's the one, yeah. Oh, so I got the name the wrong way round.
We declare that stops. We have started.
So it's like 71 body electorate. I can say 71 out of 72 electorate names in the country, and the one I can't say is the one that Debbie Ngarewa Gaka stands for.
We started the Wānanga to organise ourselves in the rangatira space. We're not denying kāwanatanga because my people are not consented to kāwanatanga.
If you look at the law of proportionality, right? I mean, if Maori is, let's say, 20% of the population, shouldn't that be only 20% of Maori in Parliament? If you really want to follow strictly
well, that's if we had a Parliament called up by jury service.
Yeah.
But I mean, people are elected to positions in there, and some people hold Māori seats, some people hold general seats, some people hold list seats, and it's who they potentially would put forward.
We are in a transformative space.
So you know why? I mean, in a way, the budget doesn't target Maori.
If we make 1 million people in this country,
is it possible that the Maori Party is just using that to get more votes for themselves? Well, by all means, that's democracy and politics.
You cannot rehabilitate us
after there's no real specific discriminatory act in the budget. Can we safely say that? Because if arguably low and middle income New Zealanders are more Maori in there, and they are getting the tax cuts, how can they be discriminated?
Well, and remember the tax cuts for those who earn under $48,000 a year is the equivalent of $2.15 per week or free chocolate lollipops. Unless you get the income earners tax credit.
Because our relationship is with
All
the
right.
crown.
Unless based on the low income of that,
Yeah,
low
like,
income.
Yeah, they're not exactly benefited from, like, you know, general tax cuts have not delivered any results for them.
No, it hasn't. Yeah, a lot of Māori communities do suffer from underfunding, and a lot of Māori do work in low-income occupations, and many Māori also do suffer with disabilities. So, yeah, it is a tricky thing to navigate. But I do hear you. I do hear you when you say
also, like, you sort of take a look at Northland. Health services, and somewhere like Auckland, Northland, a particular part of somewhere like North of Whangarei, there's only 8 GPs.
Yeah. See, increasing GPs wouldn't just benefit Māori; it would also benefit Pākehā living there.
Oh, it would benefit everyone up there.
Yeah, it would.
I mean, and they know how to petition to campaign for doctors and all that. Like my grandfather was when his first deputy principalship was at Rawene DHS, and that particular community managed to hold on to the same community doctor for 30-something years, including when he got sacked, and they relisted his role on the Ministry of Health's website. Well, not website. When they posted his role. They were posting it at a third of his annual salary. And they managed to get him reinstated on his same salary of £300 per annum, which is what he was paid at the time, which would have been a very damn good wicket of money at the time. But he basically, it was something like if you were in Rawene, in that whole harbour area, he would have probably been the person who delivered something like 95% of the babies in the area. And he was a Scottish doctor who moved to New Zealand and fell in love with that community. And they treated them as his own. So, you know, Māori know how to retain good doctors. They have a history of it, and I believe Dr. G.M. Smith was his name. His methods that stopped Spanish flu getting to Rawene is what led to the iwi checkpoints, border control to stop COVID getting te tatakaro.
Yeah.
I believe it is based on that doctor's experience, considering it was one of the only areas in the country that never got a diagnosis of Spanish flu, and it was because they set a localized lockdown during the Spanish flu epidemic in the 1920s.
And did you say that was your ancestor?
No, not mine. No. My grandparents just taught in the area after he retired.
Oh, right. Okay.
But you live there. You hear all these legends and all that sort of stuff. It was, it was well talked about. I mean, it's just a shame my grandparents were only there for a few years. They weren't, it's a shame they weren't there. I can't remember how long it was for, but I would say it might have been a maximum of 5 years. Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, that's the background, right? So if you would take away that and just the old Kiwis, wouldn't we kind of be like united, like in progress? In
the question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. The contrary, no. The ayes have it.
Ayes have it. Ayes have it.
Party vote is called for. Clerk will conduct the party vote.
New Zealand National.
49 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa New Zealand.
Instead of seeing
votes opposed.
Of what
Act New
you
Zealand.
don't need any TV from X, Y, Z.
11 votes in favour.
From England,
New Zealand
Scotland,
first.
8 votes in
you name
favour.
it, Canada.
Te Pāti Māori.
E ono ngā poti e whakahe.
But from New Zealand, Maori people will be respected as the First Nations people, but we can still be one, and because after all, I mean, if you kind of get over this, right, and get over any gravy train stuff, or being accused of wanting gravy train stuff, or just being, whatever culture you're from, then
The
we
ayes
will
are
be
68,
able to
the noes are
really
55.
move ahead. Or maybe a
Debate
better
is
way would
adjourned
be
and set down
proud
for
New
resumption
Zealanders,
next
New
sitting day.
Zealanders rather than
Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Chris Bishop.
I move that
into,
urgency be accorded the first reading of the Appropriation 2023-24 Supplementary Estimates Bill, the introduction and passing through all stages of the Taxation Budget Measures Bill, the Public Finance Fines Cost Collection Costs Budget Measures Amendment Bill, the Waste Minimisation Waste Disposal Levy Amendment Bill, and the Land Transport Clean Vehicle Standard Amendment Bill, the introduction, first reading and referral to Select Committee of the Local Government Water Services Preliminary Arrangements Bill, and the Resource Management Extended Duration of Coastal Permits for Marine Farms Amendment Bill, the introduction and passing through all stages of the Forests, Log Traders and Forestry Advisors Repeal Amendment Bill, and the Accident Compensation Interest on Instalment Plans Amendment Bill. Mr. Speaker, as is tradition on Budget Day, the Government is progressing several bills through urgency as part of the budget process, and I note for the House's edification that we have made a change from the approach of previous governments in which the opposition would find out about what bills were being introduced at the moment they were introduced, and the opposition had approximately 10 minutes to figure out how they were voting, or indeed what they were going to say about those bills, by providing copies of the bills to the opposition at 2 o'clock when the budget was introduced. So they've had a reasonable amount of time. I accept not an ideal amount of time, but at least more time than past oppositions have had. Mr. Speaker, the Taxation Budget Measures Bill delivers on our commitment to deliver tax relief to hardworking.
I think we've concluded
Yeah.
our budget special.
And I'm sorry, Dr. Eric. I missed a good portion of what you were saying there about Kiwi unification. I think was what you were talking about.
Yeah. Why
So,
can't we get past this cultural barrier like we are?
yeah,
That's in the past. I know there were a lot of injustices. I mean, I read the New Zealand Wars, and I know that the whole Waikato was taken over by Kingi Tarawa, not telling his people not to be provoked, so that there was a law that time that said that the moment any soldier was harmed, then they could take the land. And then according to the professor in New Zealand Wars, where someone molested one of the Kiwi warriors' women, and then they retaliated, and then they used it as a pretext to take away a whole swath of land, confiscate the land as a pretext. So, yeah, I mean, this could be, well, one perspective, and there's injustices in colonialism, but that's in the past, right? So, I mean, in conclusion, can we get past that? I mean, we want to be one Kiwi nation, whatever our political perspectives, then you got to get away from the cultural barrier. That,
I mean,
Maori being Maori, Kiwi being Anglo-Saxon, being Asian. Well, I mean, it's confusing. Why don't we be Kiwis and
I can speak to that. So the biggest issue has to do with contested land. That's why we have the tribunals process, and the government still holds on to quite a fair amount of perpetual leases and other land that they took unfairly from Māori, and that's why there's still a lot of grievances over that. And I think the only way we'll be able to get forward as a country is if we acknowledge what happened and take the necessary steps to through reconciliation. Right?
Hasn't the National Party been doing that? I mean, and I guess when Labour comes over, he did do a little bit of that, but National has been quite...
John Key did a little bit of that.
They've given like 500 million back to, like, I don't know which Ngati tribe, but there was one that had the whole Moana fishing, which is a few hundred million company, given back to them. There's on the sea coast. I'm not sure. The one on the northeast coast or on the North Island, I'm not sure, but a couple of tribes everywhere have been given back. So isn't that a form of positive redress?
I mean,
by the national and conservative side of been accused of not giving back when they're the ones always giving back the land to the Maori.
Yeah, I mean,
as a form of redress. I mean, I'm not, But...
Yeah, so Māori, we have whakapapa to that land. Our ancestors were there. We have a very strong, rich connection with the land, like a cultural connection with the land, that I think often gets overlooked when we talk about tribunal issues. And until we acknowledge that, okay, this is what the government did, they did abuse their power in the past and took land, there needs to be steps towards returning that land and giving iwi an option to gift the land back to Parliament. Like, for example, near where I live, Pukaha was actually gifted back to the government after it was given to Rangatane. So we gifted it back in goodwill. Because it's like, okay, you've acknowledged what's happened in the past, we're now going to gift it back so it can be shared by everyone. And a lot of Māori do hold this attitude. It's just about acknowledgement. That's all essentially what we're asking for. I don't know if that...
How about this foreshore and seabed? Foreshore and seabed was where Maori wanted to have the rights to collect fish and shells and all that for food along the seashore. And ironically, you would have thought that it would be like a conservative party that would be stopping them, but it was actually Helen Clark's led Labour Party that actually had a foreshore and seabed thing, which then caused those Maori Labour MPs to form Maori Party. So the Maori Party of today, although the issues have changed, but came up because they felt that they had no rights to the foreshore and seabed. And then they went into coalition.
Some of how that party was born, some of it was also over the fact that some of those MPs were Labour were whipped into voting for it. Georgina Beyer was one who wanted to abstain because she represented a general seat, not a Māori seat. She personally was against it, but because of the electorate she represented, abstaining was the better way to vote, but she was forced to vote for it. So she was whipped into voting for it, but she wanted to vote against, didn't want to vote for it, didn't want a bar of it at all. And in that same one, also had Taniana Turia and Manaia Mahuta were in that same one in there. Manaia ended up staying in Parliament. Georgina kind of was leaving, didn't kind of leave because she was, but she went list only, and then 3 months, it was something like a year later or two, she ended up retiring anyway from Parliament because she just had enough.
Well, in a way, National has been doing all the redressing, right? National has been the one actually doing all the redressing of
historically speaking, yes, they have been. Chris Finlayson did a lot of hard work there. And that's why he's been very critical of the current government over things there, because he personally did so much work in that field. Well, we're going to have to sit down there and go for a quick. What was your highlight from the budget?
Too many to list.
I was going to say Hannah Maipi. What's it called? Something. Hannah something Maipi Clark.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure what's the second of the 4 names. I would say her speech was the highlight, and I thought it was very bold of Te Pāti Māori putting the youngest MP in the House to do a budget reply.
Yeah, it was. I wish that my only criticism about that, and I mean this with all due respect, is that I really kind of wish that she'd focused more on the budget and how the budget's going to affect Māori voters.
Correct.
I thought that would have been a more productive route to take.
Yes.
Yeah.
I completely agree there. But I think the principal part of it, getting her out, because I think that's probably the first time that they've had a budget reply speech not done by a leader of a political party.
Oh, yeah, it was a good speech. Don't get me wrong. She was clear and articulate, which is what you want from a speaker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the, I'd say, the hidden Easter egg for today.
Yeah.
Well, I would say I would give 50-50 to Luxon and to Winston. I know you guys will not agree with that. Don't throw the rock at me. But okay.
I think
Now,
Winston
why Chris
did a
Luxon
better
is because
speech.
yeah, but Luxon used to be very soft. Now you can see he's kind of speaking as how a leader should speak. He's more verbose
He's got his
now.
mongrel out.
Yeah, he's sharper now. He's probably got a good guy who is a lady, gender equal, like how to speak and how to put the point across and in verbiage and how. And I think Vincent is a natural. He's rhetoric. He's a rhetorical chap. So I kind of give them 50-50 speech. So, yeah.
I mean, says to me, I think Winston's going to die in office. I hope he doesn't, but it's very plausible.
Winston has always been a good speaker. He's got really good comedic timing, which is a breath of fresh air when you're listening to politics. You know, the little snaps and the quips, and it just livens things up. So yeah, I do enjoy listening to him from time to time. Not because I agree with him, but because it's entertaining.
He actually knows how to keep an audience alive.
Yes.
And it was actually quite good where his speech was this time around, because the last time he was in the House, he would have been late. It would have been the third speech, because at that point, New Zealand First was the third biggest party in Parliament. This is the 2017 to 2022. This time round, his party is number 5th down the line. So you've got these drony little speeches and filibustering David Seymour. And you actually get Winston, who actually reminds you that there is actually stuff there.
It's like, this is what we're here to talk about. I don't know who this other fella is talking about. I don't know, Maori stuff.
Yeah.
but it's like, hey, can we talk about the budget?
Yeah.
But Winston was a kind of a good way to put him at number 5 to wake up everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, wake up.
Yeah, and I mean that rule is based on it's based on proportion. It is, your speeches are in order to the size of your party, except for the convention is the first reply after the finance minister is always the leader of the opposition, followed by the prime minister. But from that point onwards, then it's the size of the political party. So, and that literally went in the political party order of the sizes of the parties in the House.
All right, okay. So
so there was some conventions.
Okay. All right, that could be one of the reasons.
Now, Blake has asked for this announcement to be made here. So Blake has, his petition is going to be delivered on Parliament on Wednesday, the 26th of June at 10:30 a.m., which I think is the week Parliament goes back into sitting. It's a bit weird considering this week, because next week is apparently not a sitting week, but then the House has just gone into urgency. So don't ask me how that happens, how that works. But I mean, hey, urgency might be finished by 5 p.m. tomorrow. So, it would be on that particular part there. So, thank you for being part of the panelists for the budget special. Hopefully next budget we can probably have MPs chiming in once we have a bit more clout. And
thank you for having me.
No problem. And hopefully having someone in the budget lockup.
Yeah. I mean,
you're getting there. Yes.
We might have to ask Rex Winterstrom if he's going to go in there for GB News to see if he can co-jointly go in for us, and then basically as soon as he finishes, go straight on our show and only jump on the GBN when he needs to jump on the GBN, then back into us. So we'll see if he will end up doing that. So thanks for joining for the budget special, and we'll be having our King's birthday special this Monday. King's birthday special, it would be on there. And we'll also fill you in when we get our submission period ready for the Māori Wards part, where we basically point we put the point out that we oppose one aspect of the bill, partly been the referendum, but we, like the other part of the bill, with extending the voting time. And
yeah, that's a good thing. Yep.
yeah, and basically point out there, and if they extend it by 2 weeks, we could sit down there and effectively get what is 36 additional It's in the Ballot 2-hour shows plus an 1-hour community board shows can go into the production schedule. So that could hold a lot more local body politicians the opportunity to vote for / being held accountable.
Yeah, one thing I would love to see from this government, I don't know if they've even considered it, but to have a formal timeline for submissions. You know, it's like having like a spring surprise. Hey, you got 5 days to write a submission.
Well, it's meant to be,
come on,
most of them are meant to be 45 days. 45 days is the normal time frame. And I think there's another bill that's gone through there recently. It's a government bill, and it's got 45 days tied to it.
Yeah.
But normally most bills go to select, because most select committee turnaround times is 6 months, not, was it 5 weeks?
Yeah.
4 weeks. 4 weeks, yeah, 4 weeks, yeah. Yeah, this particular one, yeah, because the select committee for the Māori wards amendment bill has to be reported by the 21st of June, as we covered here on the order paper.
Yeah.
Well, the King's birthday is Monday. Is it Monday? We are meeting again.
Monday, because the King George II didn't like celebrating his birthday in the middle of winter. He shifted it to the first weekend of June, and every single monarch has sat there and celebrated on that weekend since. And our current monarch, ironically, has his birthday in November.
Oh, right. So, hey, King, Country, and Commonwealth.
I just wanted to ask a last question of Dr. Eric. I don't know if you're more or less leaning towards, like, I don't know if you're with the National Party or something like that. But when you hear me bluster on, it's like, this, that, and this, and this. I don't mean it like, all national voters, this this way and think that way. It's like, no, I never want to take people in bad faith. I always, I respect other people's different political differences and stuff like that. That's fine with me.
Political maturity, and that's what we are here for. I mean, that's the strength of being
here. If there wasn't political maturity, neither of you would be welcome on here.
Yes.
I can tell you that. The fact that both of you are welcome on here says the fact that it will be the same as how Martin was it Bomber.
Yeah, Bomber and Damien. Yep.
Yeah. The same thing, how they can be politically respectful of each other.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. Yeah. And that's the thing there is, those are the sorts of panelists I want.
And we can still have a couple of beers and have a nice coffee at Sam's place. If we get that, if I can get down to Wellington, I'll definitely be seeing Sam.
That would be awesome, mate. That would be awesome.
Yeah, you'll have to make it a Saturday because it's the only day it's trading at the moment.
All right. Okay. And some fashion chaps at the Master Tin.
Oh, you can always head to my local fish and chip shop, Leo's. They're down the road.
All right, if you're covering Tauranga, there's one facing the sea, right? That one is a pretty good fish and chips, like $20. Yeah, but good fish and chips.
It's found on there.
We try to put it fish and chaps. I said, I met a British guy. I said, you Kiwis always say fish and chaps.
We do.
Do we?
Fish and chaps.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll see it off, and we will see you all. See the audience back on Monday, and if we want an after-panel conversation for our panelists, feel free to stay on board. That's it on the order paper and the It's in the Ballot budget special.
Cheers, guys.
Right. Cheers.
Paper, your express ticket to the New Zealand House of Representatives. Every episode, we unravel the complex world of legislation, debate, and democracy. From bills to select committees, we've got it all covered. From our team of political commentators who will dissect and explain what's happened so you can remain up to date on what's happened in the Aotearoa New Zealand Parliament. To support our channel, you can become a Patreon member at patreon.com/itsintheballot. The Order Paper podcast is brought to you by It's in the Ballot Productions, live at 12 p.m. New Zealand